wrong, you're going to be in trouble. So it was
Yeah.
kind of a curiosity, but one of the companies that was involved in that practice literally identified openly that that became part of their new corporate strategy was to obtain revenues through litigation. I thought, wow, you really want to announce that? People are not going to want to have anything to do with you.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Interesting, but yeah, some companies are like that. How's
Okay.
everything going, Bill?
Uh, Go ahead and go to. I guess we're live. Perfect timing for him
Hello.
to get up and leave. So we're live on Twitch and we're live on uh,
We're on
YouTube.
Twitchy.
Oh
We're on
God, this is
Twitchy.
getting. No wonder we're gonna need 3 monitors eventually. Good thing I have
Well,
3.
yeah. All right,
Hello
good.
and welcome. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, guy. Didn't mean to.
No, go ahead. Start it.
Hello and welcome to the Supreme Council of the Master Geeks Lodge, where you'll find all things geeky, especially cars this month. My name is Bill Kelly, Hornswoggle the Great. I am one of your co-hosts for this geek-tastic extravaganza you're about to witness, and my co-hosts with me are...
Car guy, automotive detective, savior of all pedestrians, and guardian of all things geek.
Rob the blacksmith and hoping not to try and make a living out of litigious society.
Litigious Society.
Right.
Oh yeah, that stuff. So it being January and everybody being car crazy, and I've actually gotten out to the ranch twice this week, and I'm hopefully going out tomorrow. I missed getting, you know, that the or it's not north, it's technically westbound I-10 is closed at Warner.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I was coming back from Casa Grande. I had to take 202 all the way around the... Anyway, I didn't make it to hammer therapy, regardless to say. So, we're going to talk about cars tonight, and did you guys want to keep continuing? I mean, now, I put a little MIDI video on our YouTube site and posted it on Facebook, but Pete and... Because Pete was very, no, the 3/4 ton... That won't fit on there. That's not going to fit on there. And then, what was it? Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. Well, let's get a tape measure. So you measure from center of the wheel to center of the wheel, and okay, it's this much. And then we went to the panel truck. I'll be damned, it's the same distance. So he measured from on, and you guys... you'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So on the 47, the way the body comes up for the wheel wells, you measure those 2 pieces of metal that are on the body that basically are what's sitting on the frame. So he measured those, and we measured them on the Suburban as well. Oh, it is going to fit. So then he went totally the other... Okay, yeah, that will fit him. So then it became a lot of like, well, you could do this, and you could do this, and you could do that. Okay, if it was you, what would you do? Oh, well, I'd move, I'd do what they say. I'd switch the body out and go for the modern frame and the chassis. You're going to lose this and this. Dude, that's okay. It doesn't matter. Running boards are running boards. I don't care if they're from 1947 or 1985. It really doesn't bother me either way. As long as I have them, I'm happy.
There's no reason to lose your original running boards.
Nope.
No, not
There's
at
no
all.
reason.
But it was
We can
funny
modify
because...
that. I have a metal hot glue gun.
Hey, that's true. But it was funny because the switch happened real quickly. He went from, this is a waste of time, to, yeah, okay, let's do it. Let me call Joe. I said, Joe wants the engine and the transmission, because apparently at some point they were rebuilt. It's a 454. And I said, that's, yeah, he probably wants that. It's his stuff, And then he gets on the phone with Joe, and it becomes, well, I want the engine and the transmission. Well, yes. And the front clip. And the hood. Dude.
Yeah.
Okay. The engine's your payment. It's like, well, you were giving me the roof anyway. The frame of the chassis is, okay, that's fine. Because I was asking him how much he wanted for it. It's just, now I got to do all the work.
Yeah,
At
'cause you
first, I
don't
was like,
need,
God damn it. Now that I've had time to think about it, I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
you don't need anything else off of it. You just need the chassis and the steering column, really,
Really,
because that's all you need. Everything else, the
everything else can be
body
made.
panels, the floor pans, everything else goes away. You get rid of that. You don't need.
What you want to do is do like what we were discussing off screen, is the wiring harness, the brake pedal assembly, the steering column, like Rob said. Then you want to take the brake booster and all that, and you want to look at the firewall for any of the mounting things that you may need to transfer over to yours to weld on,
Yeah.
just for that fact. So you may cut little sections out of the firewall that we need to transfer to your firewall to facilitate that. But other than that, the little bits and pieces, like the high beam lights and stuff, uh, don't clip any of the harness, the engine harness or anything, because we're going to put the bulkhead to your firewall and convert that from a 6-volt system to a 12-volt system. And the battery tray and all that, he can have the front end, he can have the grill, he can have the fenders, he can have the hood.
Yeah, I don't
You
need
don't
that.
need none of them.
No.
You just don't want him. What you don't want him to do is to cut that main harness or cut the harness off that steering column.
Oh, no, I'm
Because
going to be doing all of the removals, so I won't do that.
good, because the plug and play and all the lighting that goes all to the back lights, the interior lighting,
Yeah.
all that you can use and put into yours. And as for the doors, you can take the doors and sell them, regulators and all, because you won't need that on yours. You got regulators. The only thing you might keep off of them is the mirrors. I don't know if they're error correct for yours, but they're good to have just in case you need mirrors to pass inspection. Other than that, the glass is not the same. You can sell the glass,
Yeah.
but all the electrical will save you months of trying to rewire everything. And also, it'll convert everything to new bulbs, which you need for that system. It'll help you wire up that whole truck.
True.
So you have also too, don't let it go with it. The fuse box. You have a fuse box in it. Pull it off the bulkhead, pull it there, because now it converts it to a blade fuse instead of those
opposed to the
old
glass. Yeah, those are definitely
that's
antiques. They really are.
Well, you couldn't add anything more to it, because if you were to do a wiring system, most new wiring systems are 12-volt systems to begin with.
Well,
So
yeah.
you would have to buy a fuse block.
I was
to
gonna
put it
have
in.
to. Yeah, I was gonna have to do because I'm not. The engine that came out of there was probably a 216 or a 235. It was a straight 6, and we're putting in a 350. So
Yeah, but you're still looking at if you can license or if you can title the vehicle as the box van, not as the Suburban. If you can title it, if you have a title for the box van, okay, for the
I do.
what is it, a 48?
47 GMC panel truck,
47.
3/4 ton.
Okay, so you've got the title for the 47.
Yes.
What we're doing is doing a frame replacement. Nobody needs to know where the hell the frame came from.
No.
So
none of
its
their
title
business.
is that. Any motor that goes into that vehicle is 5 wires to get,
Right.
unless you put fuel injection in.
No.
5 wires. You're going to have 5 circuits, total circuits on that truck that you need to have to make it run, to make headlights, turn signals, and brake lights. That 5 circuits, that's all you need. Now, that Suburban's got about 20 circuits. The nice thing about it is those 20 circuits we can clip back and save for use for other things
Air
as you
conditioning.
deem them necessary.
Yep.
Exactly. But to get it running, you're going to use 20% of what's in that chassis initially to get it to start and stop and do all the things in between that you want it to do. After that, now you can come back in later and you can add in power windows, which we can get a retrofit kit for your truck for power windows. You can add heaters and air conditioners and you could put in a satellite navigation system. You could do anything you want to. You could put laser beams on the top of sharks' heads for all
Yeah.
You can. So that's the nice thing about it is titling it as a
I
47.
want sharks with freaking lasers. Why aren't you people listening?
Exactly. You can run with it.
Yep. You'll have a tilt column. You'll have a horn. You'll have hazards, flashers. You'll have everything modern day, plus with disc brake and the drum brakes in the back, the suspension with it. So you'll have a 78 truck Suburban, full chassis with a 350 in it, with a 400 transmission behind it, running gear, more modern running gear that you can get parts for. So doing the brakes on that, think of it. Doing the brakes, you just go for 1984 brakes. They're going to be a dime a dozen cheap,
as opposed to 1947 brakes, which are a giant pain in the ass and a whole day project. Okay.
Yep. Yes.
And it's a 1-ton essentially.
Yeah.
So you're getting a heavy duty chassis that you can then use. That you can use the 47 at exactly. You can turn it into whatever you would like it. It can be this. It could be the most beautiful, pristine vehicle on the inside with a 1-ton chassis that is capable of towing the big trailer down there. And you can load up 3 or 4 big cars on the back of that trailer and hustle them to wherever, to points west or east that you decide you need to go. That's the nice thing about it.
That's the ultimate goal. And then that way, I don't want to use the F-150 for towing anymore, the 95. And that's at my sister's house now. But that's the ultimate goal for the big one, is to use it as a tow vehicle and to drive it, once or twice a month around. And
well, the beauty about it is too, you have newer access to newer wheels and rims on it, tires, so safety basically with it. The only thing we're going to take from the old frame is the mounting purchase for the body to see if they match up in the length, because you can weld them onto the new frame to secure the body down. So you would pretty much grind them off because they fit the body of your 47.
Yeah.
And to have it structurally welded onto the frame at the location points, unless the frame of the Suburban has their own that match up. I haven't seen it, so sometimes you get lucky that the modern day mounts will match up with the old mounts exactly, and you could drop it on. But if they don't, let's say they're short or wider or they're further back, further up, you could take your mounting points off your frame, weld them onto the new frame in the location. You measure the locations, match them on the frame. So when you drop your 47 onto that new frame, all you have to do is bolt it up and run wiring and stuff on it.
Even if just 4 of them match, then we cut and move all the other ones that don't match, and make it fit.
There's only about 8 bolts holding that body to the frame.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You just need
4. And then we've got the front clip. Yeah.
Yeah. And the only thing that I would recommend keeping from it, but it's up to you, Bill. It depends if he wants a front clip of it to put on his truck.
Who knows what Joe's going to do with the front clip of it.
Well, the only reason I say this is that you might look for a truck that he's putting out for the core support. The only reason I say for the core support is that you may cut out the certain sections that you need to hang the radiator in your radiator to work with those old fenders, so you can mount a newer cooling system in it. That's the only thing. Yeah, we can build that. Well, it would just to save money. But sometimes you could use the mounts and just strip them off of it and use it for making a new mount.
Yeah, you take the center out of the core support because you're not going to keep the headlight bucket assemblies. Usually a modern core support goes from fender to fender. So you're thinking that big square body design. You're going to come in about 6 to 8 inches and hack that and take that center core support, because then you're going to fit that inside that 47 front clip, because that will hold the radiator. And then we would build out whatever else is necessary. We would make it to bolt to the fenders. The fenders would bolt to a proper core support from the 47. The hood latch assembly would bolt to the top core support. We may get lucky if you've got the core support from the 47 and it's in good shape. We may not have to do a whole lot with another one. But to Guy's point, it's worthwhile to have it, because now you've got a larger core assembly so that we can be sure of what's going to fit in. Whatever you put into that, whatever motor you put into that vehicle at that point, that's going to dictate the radiator itself. But we can get all kinds of interesting radiator options. If we have to get a top tank like the old classic radiators, we can find those. That's easy enough to do. we'll probably end up getting side tanks that will fit in. We won't have to worry about it.
Squidget.
Yeah, and it'll just make it more usable, because the top tanks are great, but they're not at your local parts store.
No.
They're just harder between. So if you get a side-mounted tank to a C10 Chevy 350, if you blow that radiator, you can go to any parts store and buy one with a plastic end.
Yeah, I don't want to hack up the old frame for the 47 too bad, because hell, we might be able to put the 54 cab on there. I mean, I know the plan was a Blazer, but
Well, the other side of it is, if you're not going to use the 47 chassis,
I'll sell it to Peter.
Sell it.
I'll probably trade it to him for stuff, because he'll be able to
yeah,
sell it.
sell it or trade it to somebody for what you need for one of the other vehicles. And then you're off to the races.
Yeah. He found a horn from like the 40s. It's like, I found a horn. It was under your stuff. Do you want it? I'm like, I need this horn. Merry Christmas. It's yours. Happy birthday. Dude, you've already given me so much stuff. Of course you can have the horn, because I'm going to want a more modern one anyway. And honestly, I don't use my horn. I yell out the window and give hand gestures.
When we get it done, we'll have to give you like 3 separate horns with a switch that you can select your horn. We'll get you a proper original 40s style sound.
Ooga.
We'll get you we'll get you a more modern 4.
Oh wait, no, what is it called? Hold on.
And we'll get you a train horn.
Yeah, a big train.
The Bermuda Bell. The Bermuda Bell was in a car before horns. I had to think of that. I'm like, Beluga?
Yeah.
No, that's not right. But honestly, if my dream horn noise would be the, I don't remember what the tune is, but Caddyshack, Rodney Dangerfield's limo. It's just so obnoxious. It fits his character in the car. It's just so obnoxious. I love that.
So Bill needs a digital horn.
Basically, yeah.
One that we can set for anything.
Eventually, one day, it would be my dream to take a vehicle and to completely restore it as a restored stock vehicle. But everything else we have, I'm super flexible. It's negotiable. I don't have... Because he's like... We were talking about the 48, the smaller panel truck, the rollover. It's like, I thought you were giving this to me. No, you decided in your mind that I was giving this to you. I always want to restore it. And now I have the roof from the Suburban, and Bodyman Bill was convinced that the roof from the 47 Ford will fit on the. I want to measure them. I don't know. I think it might. I don't think it's going to be wide enough, because it's a car versus a delivery. Not that you couldn't weld more on it and hammer it out and grind it down, but just grind down the Suburban. It's already.
If it's a 47, well, let's talk about this. Is it the same manufacturers between the two? You got a Chevy and a Ford. Is the 48 a sedan delivery, or is it a panel truck?
Panel truck.
If it is, the 48 is a full-size panel truck, not a sedan delivery. Okay, so then you're looking at pulling the top off of a Ford sedan delivery and putting it onto a Chevrolet panel truck.
It's not even a Ford. It's a Ford four-door sedan. That's why I don't think it's going to fit.
So the roof could be done. That could easily be done, and it would fit.
Really?
It's going to, as we talked about, it's going to have to be sectioned, which means it'll have to be cut down. Probably what he's thinking, he may be thinking of sectioning it down both sides, which means if he puts in a 3 or 4 inch strip on each side, it makes it very easy to match the same curvature in both directions by making that long section down the sides. So that is not an impossible thing to think about, but there's a lot of work, and that would require his body work technique to be able to do
his
it.
Skills. The problem is that these guys, when I talk about the rollover panel truck, they're always like, I'm going to restore it back to factory, reset it. The real matter is, no, this thing will never be like it was. And I don't expect it to be like it was, because now it's going to be different. The posts in the front have been mangled and cut by the rollover, so they're going to have to be repaired, replaced, whatever. And then the only thing that we're going to have to make original will be to put the back doors on.
Actually, I'm going to warn you about a thing, and I'm going to let you know on a little secret. Before you cut the roof off, before you do anything, you're going to need the 2 back doors, and you're going to need the 2 front doors. The reason is you're going to need that to set up and align the body as you pull it and tug it, because the roof is not true anymore. We can't trust the measurements off of it because of how it rolled over. So you can't do any of this, I hate to say, Bill, until you get the 2 back doors.
I have.
Because you put them on. When you put the back doors on, if you can put them on or not, it'll tell you how far that roof has moved over. Then when you get the puller and stuff with it, because I would try pulling it first before I start cutting it. I will pull the top of the truck back closer to original setup as I can before I add new sheet metal to it. Because you got to get the frame, the windshield frame, and all that back where the doors sit properly and where it sits properly.
You'll be happy to know that before he died, my dad and I got those back doors on, and they closed.
Good.
And then I bought it. It came with no doors at all, but I bought the back doors from Chris in Flagstaff, along with 2 radiators and a bunch of other. Oh my God! I made probably 4 trips to Flagstaff to pick up all the stuff that he sold me. We made a deal, and I kind of was interested in his late father's '61 Falcon, but that ended up I lost contact with the guy. But I bought the driver's side and the passenger side door off of Pete and Judy. That's kind of like what started our relationship, was me going up there and buying the doors and buying the green panel truck.
It actually, what I would say, I'm going to come up with an idea for you, where you're going to need to find a junk particular car. It doesn't mean any make or model. It just has to have one certain thing on it. A retractable sunroof.
Well, that would be cool.
The reason why I say is you're cutting the top off of the Suburban off. You're cutting the top off of it. You could be cutting in sections, okay? You could have to reinforce that sections. After you do the pulls, before the cutting, when you're truing everything out, you take the electric sunroof, because what's going to happen is when you section metal, unless it's one piece of metal, you're going to have a ton of warpage, and you're going to have to work that warpage out. The sunroof gives you that flexibility where you can hide it, but it also gives you the intelligence.
I see where you're going.
Weld supports to the sunroof to secure the roof and minimize the warpage on the top. Yeah. Then the metal that you cut up from the top of the sunroof, you allocate that to fix rust repair in other places. But what happens is it'll minimize the warpage from all the other welds, because if you weld a piece from the back, all the way from the back, all the way to the front, you could have a wavy roof. So what happens is you're not going to get all the waves out. You're going to have to put so much Bondo on it or filler to make up the difference for it, that later on it's going to crack and the roof gets beaten down by the sun. So sometimes by putting that in it, it gives it a little break where the metal can flex a little bit, and where you can minimize that, because that roof really took a beating. And the reinforcements from it, you could put the sunroof in it, and you could do what you did with the 47 is, if you later on put a chassis or you get a wiring harness from a newer truck, you can run the electrics to power it. You could go from a 6-volt system to a 12-volt system. You can do that. But then what happens is it limits the body work that you have to do on that big, huge panel. And you put a sunroof in it with a retractable sunroof and glass and stuff on it. And you make sure you seal the hell out of it. Then you can put the Diamond Man on it, so you don't have heat problems with it. And that might help you with the sculpture of the roof.
Yeah. See, I do not intend to. If we get lucky enough and we're able to make it look close to the original, that would be great. But after Cliff gave me the idea of you can make it look like a beetle, like one of the roly-poly sow bugs. What are they? I don't know what the other names for them are. Roly-polies, is it?
Yeah.
You know, the ones that eat heavy metals and anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But that sounded kind of cool. We don't have to make it like, exactly. We can make it look almost Demon Rod or Funny Car,
Steampunk.
Steampunk. That would be awesome. Because then
that vehicle is perfect for that because of the damage, the inherent damage that it has.
Yeah.
If you're no longer looking to take it as close to the factory, as close to original, trying to get as close to restored,
yeah,
then you're in a much better position because you have to Guy's point, you have to replace all of the ribs in the roof. All of those are destroyed.
Only a couple of them can be saved. The bad part is that it sat for decades, so all of those are. This is the weird car where the bottom of the roof is rusting.
Yeah. So all of that stuff has to be replaced. Essentially, the supports down the one side that took the initial impact in the back, those supports are all destroyed. So that has to be repaired at least 3/4 of the way up and above, from what I remember when I was out there. So there's a lot of structure that has to be rebuilt in that vehicle. So if you're not looking to take it back to factory, then you're open to do a lot of things. You can go in there with thin C-channel material. You can go in there with 1/2 inch by 3 inch tubing and create your structure inside that you can then lay your material up over. And that makes it very easy to build that out. And if you're looking at that nested clamshell style, then that's very easy, because now you're working on a panel that's only 2 feet or 1.5 feet, and you're nesting another one in there, another one under. That becomes a real easy way to do it.
I don't need to, again, it would be beautiful. No, everybody wanted to cut her up and use her for other stuff because of the extensive damage. I'm the only one that believed in her, and I want to keep doing that. And even out there, that you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. This is, in a sense, Corvette Summer. They thought Mark Hamill's character was insane, and look what he created.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I don't have his talent and experience, but I do have a lot of friends that have a lot of knowledge. And that's what I said to Pete. I'm like, I want one of the Blazers, and I want to put this 48 rollover panel truck on one of the Blazers. Why don't you just put a front axle on it? It would be a lot less trouble. Because I don't have a front axle, Pete. I've got 2 rear differentials. One is here in your yard. The other one is in my backyard. So then he took me over. He's like, you could use this one. Because I have the grill, the fenders.
Well, wait a minute.
The hood, a seat, brand new $1,100 seats that I bought for that vehicle because high hopes.
Hey, Bill. We're overlooking something that's right in our face. You do have a front axle. It's on the 47.
I do have an axle. You're right. It is on the 40.
It's on the 47. So what happens is you can literally, if you wanted to.
I could take. You're right. I could cannibalize that one. I think he might want to sell that one complete though, and he'll just give me the other one. Because I gave him the horn. We're good now.
Well, regardless of that you have a front axle that you could put underneath of it.
Yeah.
Or you have a frame. Or you have a frame where you could put that on top of.
Because that's what I told him. I'm like, I don't have an axle, and I need you to teach me how to put this one on. I've taken axles off, but I've never put one on where there was no axle as a guide before. That's a new trick.
Well, if you have another chassis, then that means you now have 2 original chassis that have a value in the restoration community, where you're not necessarily looking for a restoration. So if the 48 becomes a steampunk-esque vehicle, a rat rod, as it were, then you put that on a modern chassis as well, and you let somebody else have the old chassis for a reasonable exchange of either currency or car parts.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And now you've got what you're looking for. You have just come up with the best or the original hot rodding style. So, geez, I can find an old Model T. It's 1951. I can find an old Model T sitting in the junkyard. But you know what I'd really like to do? I'd like to have that Model T with a set of Model A rails for it.
Nice.
Oh, but those two don't fit together. Yes, they do, because I have a Porsche.
They do after fire happens.
I was going to say, you're in that same boat. You've got a 47 and a 48 that could easily fit on another chassis. Now you've got a 70s, 80s chassis for a Suburban to fit the 47 on. If you've got a Blazer chassis that the 48 can fit on, now in the parlance of some of my old comrades, you're cooking with gas.
You're cooking with gas. You're cooking with gas.
Funny, we say the same thing. It says now you're burning oil.
Well, we went out there. I moved the frame. I tried to pump up because I'm like, why does Joe have this Reliant? Are we going to film a 1980s detective cop movie? Is that what, are we making a show? What's going on here? So, because now he's like, well, excuse me.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you. Everybody around me's sick. It's only a matter of time. But, because my whole point to this, too, is, hey, Pete, this gets 2 vehicles out of your yard. If I can get the panel truck and this Suburban out of your yard, my panel truck and Joe's Suburban out of your yard, bing, bing. So he's totally on board for this. He was helping me take crap out of the Suburban on Saturday. Okay. Just put I did, 1 or 2, probably 1.5 trips from that Suburban to his. He's got a bunch of trailers set up, and they have spray painted trash, scrap, aluminum.
Yep.
So I filled the trash trailer. Yeah.
The body off of that Suburban is going to help to fill out that scrap container, because you can cut out a lot of that, put it in the scrap, and that has a value to him, because now his scrapper is going to pick it up and pay him pennies on the pound, and away he goes.
Pete's very like, okay, you're going to... Basically, it's like, except for what Joe wants, this is yours now. You need to sell the glass and the doors. You know what's going to happen. I'm going to make a pile of this stuff, and Judy's going to list it, and then Judy's going to take care of it and make all the money. I don't need to make any money on this. I've got way too much to do to worry about selling stuff. I'm trying to,
And if they'll trade you for things that you need, simple things. Like, you guys want the glass, but you have this over here that I could use.
Yes.
I could use 4 of those steel rims, those original steel 1-ton rims that you've got sitting in the corner. I could use 4 of those. I'll give you the glass for 4 of those. And then you paint those up, and now you've got things that you can put old-style hubcaps in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Guess what? Your 47 has the old dog dish V8s.
It's so funny. Car parts to car guys are the way weed is to pothead friends as it is a currency, which is something I had to explain to my father after dispensaries opened and stuff. And it's like, remember when Paul did this for me and this for that? Well, I only gave him a little bit of money, but I was growing weed at the time, and he was very happy to get like 2 ounces of good stuff. So it's the same kind of way where car parts are, hey, you've got that such and such engine, and I want to put that in this thing, so I know you want this.
Well, what do you think, car guys? We hoard cars a little bit.
Oh my
parts.
God, yeah, a little bit.
For that reason, is we trade and so forth, because we know what the parts can be used for, what they go on, and the value of them. So sometimes it'll pull you out of a jam. Say, what am I going to do with the steering column? Well, I got one over here and stuff on it. So you can, and if you don't need that extra one, you got liquidity where you can sell it,
Yeah.
or you could trade it to get something that you need. So it's always going back and forth. And like the fuel tank out of that Suburban. Well, if you don't have a fuel tank in that 47,
Well,
you have a fuel tank there.
I do, but it's a fuel tank from 1947, so it maybe holds 10 gallons.
Maybe
So-
not.
Yeah,
But-
Suburban tank is perfect.
Yes. Damn right it is. Exactly, Guy. Now you're thinking like I am. Or
Yeah,
now
It's like
I'm
the
thinking
good
like you
old
are.
days.
Yeah.
In the good old days, guy, I used to go to the swap meets and I used to buy all the old. I didn't care what it looked like. You know, it was old Holly 4 barrels, and Rochesters, and Carters, and anything else. I'd go pick them up, bring them home,
Rebuilt
and
those.
my father used to get all over me. What the hell are you going to do with them? And I used to rebuild them because I could turn them very quickly. In those days, for $20, I could get a full rebuild kit, and I had the 5-gallon buckets, the old metal buckets
Oh,
of
yeah. I know.
Berriman's carburetor solvent. And there were a few times that I had to have bushings put into the base plates. And in the old days, you could get bushings put into the plates. That was not an impossibility. I used to buy carburetors for $10 at the swap meet, and then you'd bring them home. I'd rebuild them, turn around and sell them for $40 or $50, get my money out. And that always took care of it. Or somebody, to your point, somebody showed up, geez, the carburetor's really acting up on the truck. Oh, here, I got this carburetor over here. You got a set of those cherry bombs still in the box, right? Yeah, I'd like to get some of those.
I
'cause
want loud
we need those
exhaust.
for the pickup truck. Oh, okay, cool. I'll trade you for that. Off we go.
It's the value exchange with cars. You become and Bill, you're slowly acquiring the taste. You're gonna get to the point where you're gonna get excited about the hunt real soon. And Rob knows what I'm talking about. Is when you start learning about cars and you start learning about how similar things are, like the chassis and stuff on it. Oh, I can use this. Well, what about this on this? Then what's going to happen is you can start looking at the hunt, then seeing what would work, what wouldn't work. Then your knowledge is going to grow because you didn't know nothing about the chassis. Me and Rob knew about that Suburban chassis a long time ago that it would work because GM likes to standardize. That word means they use similar stampings for years. So that frame is not too much off. It just, why fix something that ain't broke? So even though it's slightly modernized, changed a little bit, but some of it's very made the same. So with that, you can get away with a lot of stuff. So once you start learning that little stuff and start hunting it down, then you're going to be noticing more the nuances of the thing. Going, wait a minute,
wait, because I think that in a sense, my mom had her own agenda. I'm getting all these ads lately. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to hear. Something popped up for Netflix. First of all, I'm a pirate. It's not that account. It's not my account. It's my ex-wife's account, and she never changed the password. Anyway, so I don't know what that was about. So I think that my dad wanted to do stuff all along, but anything cars would have taken away from time for doing projects for my mom. Because even when he first saw the rollover, after all the swearing, what the shit is this? This piece of shit. What the fuck did you buy this? After all of that, it became, we can do this. We can do that. Oh, hey, look, this is still here. So deep down, he always loved cars, and he instilled that passion into me. But then again, it was kind of already there because my mom said that you were the easiest child to watch because all there had to be was a couch, and I would give you 5 or 6 Matchbox cars, and you would sit there for hours driving the cars on the couch and up and down the couch and on the back of the couch and across people. And so it was already there. And with me, it wasn't long. You know how like, oh, we're on a long road and you kids are pissing me off. See how many out-of-state license plates you could find. For us, it was, Dad, what car is that? Oh, that's a 1937. That's a 65 Bel Air. And he knew, unless it was like new and really foreign, you couldn't stump him. He knew what everything was, and that always freaked me out because my grandfather didn't really know a lot about cars. My grandfather was the maintenance guy for the family. They did an industrial linen. So you had about 35, 40 family employees, my father said, and then you had about 300 inner city ethnic workers. We're going to use that term because all my past family is super racist and I'm not. But it was like that. So my father had to start working at the laundry when he was 4 years old. So he absolutely hated the laundry. So his plan of attack would be to get there early before school, help everybody do all of the stuff that he would have to do, go to school, come back to the laundry, then do all the stuff he needed to do his homework, and then he would run down the street. And I guess like down the alleyway and over, he said, "Oh, I was always, anytime I got all my stuff done, I ran to Diggory's fast as I could." I'm like, Diggory? I've never heard this name before. I'm an adult. I've never heard this name before. Who the hell is Diggory? Oh, Diggory was a mechanic, and he was down the way, and he fixed all of the delivery vans that my family, that Charlie. I find it so funny that it's always sunny in Philadelphia, that Charlie Kelly is the main character. And Charlie Kelly is my grandfather. And my dad always told me, out of all of the descendants, you're the most like him. You're a con man that actually like gives a shit about people and is guilty when he rips them off. It's like, well, yeah, I don't like, I have a moral code, believe it or not. Even at like work now, I don't like taking tips off of drunk people. That's like stealing candy from children. That bothers me. Where the rest of my staff are like, fuck that. Yeah, both hands, go. You want to tip me? You want to tip me more? And I'm like, no. And they're like running after me, forcing it in my hand. No! All right, I need money desperately. Thank you. Like and subscribe, folks. But
I guarantee you that your grandfather was the one that your grandfather could probably walk through the hardware store. You could grab something off of the shelf and say, "Grandpa, what's this?" You could say, "Oh, that's a 3/4 inch ball valve with this kind of an input, this kind of an output line on it. Oh, that's, if you look over there, you'll see the blue fuses. Those are 30 amp. If you go over here and you look at the green fuses, it's going to be 40 amp.
Yeah,
you go over here, you look at this." Because that was what he knew.
You're right. He didn't know cars, but he was the maintenance guy for boilers and manglers and on the industrial scale, folks. Mm-hmm. Not a little one in the corner. We're talking about back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s when, God, Kelly's Linen did everything. We did hotels, we did hospitals, we did restaurants. They did the Army and Navy at one point. The blankets are long gone, but we had Army and Navy blankets. I have 2 of these. The other one's over there. This is my inheritance. This and a massive. It's in the other room, but can you guys see it? It's a cog with a number on it. The number is punched into the brass, and then basically they would get the laundry when it was finished and fold it all up and put it in a canvas bag, and then they would, oh God, this thing's like almost 100 years old. It still opens. And they would hook it all up, and then they would find the cog and go, oh, I can't read it anymore. Oh, 161. And then they would put that on cog 161, and then they would go by with the trucks. And so, yeah, it was a whole
so
thing.
For all
but
of
he
you
didn't
watching, that is what Bill is showing you now, is how they would handle this industrial level. And if you have gone with your parents or grandparents, I do feel, because you had to take your own clothing to a dry cleaner. A dry cleaner is this infinitesimal version of what Bill is talking about from his family's commercial linen and cleaning service. So if you walk into the dry cleaners and you hand them a ticket, and that ticket has 161 on it, just
Yeah.
like the
I can't
card,
remember
they
what
could
that
go in,
number is.
pull it back. Bill's family had that on an industrial scale, which means on,
Yeah.
we're talking hundreds of thousands of square feet under roof, not 2,000 square feet under roof.
Charlie was young in Centralia, Pennsylvania, and he hated coal mining. And his father was John. And John came across the boat. And the story is that that Charlie told my dad was my father told me that when they got off the boat from Ireland, that they were after being processed in Ellis Island, there were boys yelling in Gaelic, "If you're Irish, you won't find any work here. Come with us and work in the mines. You'll be guaranteed to find a job." So then, well, John didn't know any better, and okay, I'll sign up. I'm an American now. Let's go work in the mines for a little while. So he said it was an 8-day wagon ride, him and like 50 or 60 other Irish, Welsh, Scottish, because Gaelic is Gaelic. It's like the difference between like American English and English, or Spanish, and Mexican or Argentinian Spanish, where if you're speaking it, you're going to be understood, but the words are going to be a little different depending on if you're Welsh or Scottish or Irish, because the English have been conquered so many times, that part of Gaelic it's gone. The Saxons and the Normans completely wiped it out.
Well, so many of those that have our family history, our long history, a lot of the Irish, the Welsh, the Scottish, a lot of those folks, many of them came over and had at least some kind of a rudimentary understanding of working underground.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a lot of mining that took place in those regions, and so there were a lot of our ancestry had that knowledge, or at least enough of that knowledge that most folks were willing. Yeah, come here. You know how to handle this. You can get down under there. You don't mind working by candlelight. You know how to handle a hand drill. You know how to be
you know what a pick looks
you know
like.
how to be the drill man or to be the hammer man while working in this area.
Yeah.
Go for it. That's where Tommy knockers came from. The Welsh, that's quite literally.
Well, the Cornish,
Yeah, the Welsh brought that over because that's an old tradition. If you hear that while you're underground,
it's about to go.
That's the Tommy knockers telling you it's time to get out.
Yeah. The Tommy knockers. Oh, our picks are broken. Must have been the Tommy knockers. Sorry, boss. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we got to go up. What's going on? Oh, special break.
I would love to get. My father spoke of, and he enjoyed driving them until his teenage years when driving them wasn't fun anymore. It was a job. But he had the big international metro vans. One iteration of those were used by Kelly to do, because from what my father said, by the time he's in high school, he's trying to get all of his studies done. He's also in football. He's also in baseball. He's not really a basketball. He's just, But one thing that surprised me, and I saw it in his yearbook, is, oh, yeah, I was in theater. It's like, you were in theater? How many plays were you in? None. Which roles did you play? Not a one. I wasn't even an extra. What did you do? Somebody had to build all the sets.
I was going to say, what else do we do? Okay, if we can't tell a story,
we can tell a story.
We can fix whatever's necessary. So that's what we do.
Bill,
did.
Me and your dad had a conversation a long time ago when we were going to college. When I was over at your place one time helping you with your Camaro or something, I forget what I was over there. And he asked me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm in theater." And he looked at me and he smiled at me. He said, "Well, yeah, what do you do?" And I said, "I build sets." Now it makes the whole thing why he was grinning and laughing, and he
Yeah.
slapped me on the back.
And if you, okay, well, let me ask you to this question. How many times did you watch Channel 12 News? How many times did you
Quite a bit.
watch news?
Quite a bit.
Guess who built all of their sets from 1981 on?
Yep.
Nice.
Pep Cooney was. I have that round rug in my living room, the red and blue one, is from CE Pep Cooney. He was the highest you could go in Arizona at the time for NBC. And when
Yeah.
he passed away, his son took over. And when they cleaned out his office, my dad grabbed the rug and it ended up in my living room because my mother. It's round. It won't fit in my house. Meanwhile, do you want this? Your mother doesn't like it. Hell yeah, I want it. Oh my God. This is like $1,000 rug. Because thanks to my very first job being World of Rugs, I can look at a rug and let you know if that's a machine. That's not very. That's handmade. That's worth a lot. you know, because the pile's like this. It was. Now it's 50 years old almost.
Yeah,
But
if your dad had a chance, he would have loved to restore cars and do some stuff with it. He liked working with his hands. He really did.
he because you've taken car detective title away from him now that he's no longer with us, because I can remember like hanging out with like other friends that you and I grew up with in that neighborhood, and it's like, why doesn't your dad know that? Because he just doesn't know that. It's like, God. And it took me a while to realize, wow, my dad really does know. And I asked him one time, why aren't you a mechanic? And the answer was almost automatic, because I don't like having my hands that dirty all the time. Shut me up. Oh my God, you're right. Even after a day out there at the branch. Not that I'm some like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I gotta wash my hands, but I don't like having black nails and this.
No. And it's fun to work on my stuff because it's my stuff.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass to work on someone else's stuff because you're hearing about it.
Yep.
Somebody's always on you about it. And when is it going to be done? And you fix this and now this is broken. No, that's not how it
Yeah.
works.
He bought
No.
3 newer and new cars in his lifetime that he was proud of. And the first one was I think it was a 62 two-door Falcon, but he was living at home, or yeah, because he graduated high school in 63, and he gets forced to Vietnam in 68. So that is about the timeline. But my grandmother kind of commandeered that car. In the meantime, having a whole lot of cars out front was really pissing my grandfather off. Starting to look like a car lot out there, like living next to your dad guy would like drive my grandfather crazy. Why do they have so many cars? Dude, they have many cars. What? Why do you fucking care? Yeah. Apparently,
Yep.
the no fun Kelly thing skips a generation, because my grandfather wasn't a lot of fun, but my great grandfather was a blast. My dad is a lot of fun. I'm a lot of
Yep.
fun.
See,
But
that was why Grandpa loved having the ranch because we had the back pasture. And so when somebody's car stopped working, were you going to get rid of it? Oh, no. Okay. Grandpa would come over with the trailer, the van, and we'd load it on the trailer and we'd take it up to the ranch and we'd put it out in the pasture. And then we'd either make it work or parts would come off of it to make something else work.
yeah.
So you had this nice little layout of old vehicles, and Grandpa would be, you know what? Does that Scout have an alternator on it? Go pull it off and bring it over here. Okay, let's see if we can. And Grandpa would be, okay, bring me that angle iron, bring me some all thread. We're going to put it on this Datsun because I need that alternator on this old Datsun truck, which never leaves the ranch anyways. Yes, sir. Learn how to make it work.
No, he lamented because he bought 1970 Mercury Montego right before we left Philadelphia. And it was black with a red interior, and he absolutely loved this car. And then he had it painted silver right before we moved out here because the whole, well, you can't have a black car in Arizona. And the paint looked good for a while. He loved the car so much that he kept it. We got, well, we had just had, there was a van, because my mom had a van at that time. And then it was having issues, but he didn't want to get rid of it. And he was going to work on it. And it ended up becoming my older sister's car. And then we got rear-ended by a 18-wheeler one day when Marie was taking me to get my cans recycled. I was that young. And he wanted to rebuild it. Because he's like, the body's fucked up, but the frame is fine. This will be good. Because it was like the only sports car he had left from when we were little. And, but my mom kind of forced him to get rid of it. And he later, many times in life, I should have kept the Montego. I love that car. I should have kept the Montego. Because I think correct me if I'm wrong, Guy, you could probably tell me from off the bat, but I think it had a 351 Windsor or Cleveland in it, but I'm not.
Could have had a 428. It was in 1970. It's a Mercury Montego. Could have had a 429, not a Boss engine.
Had those opening headlight things, like a Riviera.
Yeah. And was it two-door?
It was a two-door. Because I was the one that owned a four-door, my 73 Mercury Montego.
You could have had a GT. You could have had a Montego GT. You could have had, because there's a two-door black with red interior.
Yep.
It was already a high dollar. It was shy of a Lincoln. Mercury was a step down from Lincoln before you got the Ford.
Yeah.
So the Mercury Montego could have been a GT. Was a two-door sedan, red with black interior. Already could have been a 428. Could have had some power. Now, was it your sister drove it? Had to have been automatic. But was it automatic on the column or on the floor?
I don't remember. Most of my memories of that car are riding in the back seat.
It was probably a 429.
Watch this, Trude.
On the column.
Oh, sorry, what?
Because that would have been the premier for that vehicle. That would have been the executive's wife's car.
Yeah.
In that it would have had the big 429. It would have possibly had the 4-barrel, probably the 2-barrel, but it would have been the torque the torque motor. So that thing would have had a lot of power. It would have been pretty quiet when it drove around, but when you put your foot into it, you could feel that thing pull like a freight train for days. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize.
Sweet.
Yeah. The Mercury Montego is the base platform when you got the Cyclone spoiler and the Talladega. Really? So if you look up Mercury Cyclone, that's a Montego.
Right now,
well, a little bit.
There's a picture that
70.
My mom.
Because I had the ugly stepsister to that car.
Oh, which one?
I had a Gran Torino Squire station wagon, and the Squire series with the full Gran Torino Squire components with the woody sides came with the 429 with the 2-barrel and the automatic transmission. All the extra. It had it had the 10-pound hubcaps, the 4-piece 10-pound steel hubcaps.
Giant hubcaps. Damn it! I'm gonna have to find the pic. At one point, my mom sent me a picture of him before they left Pennsylvania, and he's standing next to the car because he took a router and he made a front plate that had his initials on it out of plastic, out of thick plastic, long before anybody did crap like that. He was an innovator.
Before AZ.
Well, back east, you had to have 2 plates,
Yeah, front and back.
You must comply. Hey, jeez. It's anyway. We'll find that later.
Well, it's amazing how certain cars will kind of dictate your future, or put you onto a path. Because like your dad, it was his Montego, and it wasn't because of the Montego. It's because what he did was what he did to accomplish to get it.
Mm.
At the point in his life, it's like some people will buy a Rolex watch when they make their first $1 million sale. Sometimes to move out, he bought that car for a reason. He got out of the army, whatever reason he bought it. That was a milestone for him. So you get certain cars. That's why it meant a lot to him, and he was he understood why it went, but he didn't. He wanted to bring it back as he could, and I bet you he wanted to get another one. That's why he got the 4-door one for you to kind of relive that or to pass that on to you.
Oh, no. He laughed when I found the 4-door 73 when I was 15 all by myself. And when I brought him the picture, he's like, "Hey, I had a Montego." And I'm like, "I remember. I was there." You know, because he had like 4 cars before we moved out here, but the 2 that I remember most are the Montego because it was loud and fast, and I don't remember what year it was. I wish he was here. It was a what are they called? A squareback via Volkswagen. Because that was the weird thing that when Andy moved in, he had one that was close to the same late '60s year as my father's, but my dad's was red and white on the inside, and then Andy's was like the dark green, and I think it was gray on the. I don't remember what the interior was. So I was like, "Oh my God, you have that?" Because it's not really a. It's the closest thing to a station wagon Volkswagen makes.
Yeah, it was built during the same. The design came out of the same design house as the Carmen Ghia that everybody knows. The Squareback was built along that same pattern,
Yeah.
and very. It wasn't popular then. Very popular today.
Yeah.
Because it's more rare.
Because my dad sold it to his brother Mike before we moved out here. Because I remember sitting on the roof of that at a drive-in, watching the brand new Willy Wonka movie starring Gene Wilder. This movie has midgets in it. Come on, kids, we're gonna go watch it.
We're gonna go see this.
Yeah, he was obsessed with midgets.
Oh, those
Under the Rainbow,
were the good old
Willow.
days.
Yeah, those are all his favorite movies.
The days of the station wagon, when that was the station wagon or the big 4 doors. So the big Lincolns, the big Cadillacs, the big Chryslers were very popular for going to the drive-in because you could fit yourself and 5 of your closest friends into this thing, plus all the chairs, plus all of the ice chests and everything else to go to the drive-in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. See, when you're a kid, you want a 2-door sports car, and that's rightly so. And you should go get that, and you should have it. But once you hit about 35, you really don't fucking care how many doors it has or how. You fall in love with the style, the shape, the curves, or to, justify what you just said, you buy it for the memories. Because too many times, my dad had a car like that. My grandfather, my great uncle used to come to visit us, and that was his car. And or the best is Rob. There's so many stories and all the your grandfather and all the That's like we need to do a fundraiser, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching at home, like and subscribe, and we need to do we need the 58 for Rob's for the forge, and then I'm quite sure that we could raise $600. Just say when, Guy. I've already talked to Pete about it. I'll drop off the Corvairs in your backyard. You've got room back there, right? You've got like a quarter of an acre.
Yeah, let me think about that because
talk to your dad because Pete is hot to trot to get rid of those, and I'm sure I can make payments that he would take them. Not only that, it's a lot. There's
But I have a storage facility. I have a garage where I do work and
money.
stuff.
This is my cockamamie. Hey, let's get some cars and restore them. Plan for the three of us. Meanwhile, you're like,
Oh,
oh, I'll take the Corvairs and hide them away. Hey, fuck you. I want to make videos about this.
I have to apologize to you both.
Uh,
Bill, I know you wanted to record it, and I only had about a 20-second recording after I got it running. The Jeep is now up and running and fully
Ooh,
functional.
yes. Well, God, it's
nice.
been sitting in your driveway in a heap for how long now? 5 years?
It's been here for over a year, and
Oops.
I contacted an outfit that rebuilds the power control module computers, and for $350, I got a new remanufactured computer for it. But I had them take off. Okay, now I'm going to get technical. Guy will understand this. Bill, prepare to be educated.
Education.
There is a system in the Chrysler vehicles called the SKIM, SKIM. It is the security key interlock mechanism. And the SKIM system is what requires the chip keys in Chrysler vehicles. It's controlled by a special reader, which sits around where you put the key in. And it's you've heard of radio frequency, RFID, radio frequency identification system. The chip is only energized by a low voltage signal. It comes from a round system that the key fits inside. It energizes the chip, reads the chip, and says, oh, you can go ahead and start this vehicle.
That's
The
evil.
problem is the Chrysler system that was designed worked really well, but at about 10 years old, this is a 2003, at about 10 to 15 years old, the SKIM system starts to break down. The parts have become less and less available because they are not as they're not as easy to manufacture or remanufacture. So companies like Dorman and Pioneer don't make them as readily right now. So there is a procedure that you can do to turn that function off in the computer, but it requires more equipment than the backyard mechanic will have to be able to go in and basically completely reset that to a factory condition and then turn it off. So I ordered this computer. The computer was $280, and for an additional $70, they turn off that, reconfigure it, and then they program it to this Jeep. It has to be programmed to your VIN number. So the computer only works in this Jeep.
Awesome.
And that's fine. They sent me the computer. I got it installed, fixed it. Also found out that there were a couple of other problems with the Jeep. So for all of our viewers and listeners who are unaware, if you have a Jeep Cherokee from about 1988 until about 2006, your best friend is the 4-prong relay, because the Jeep Cherokees and the Grand Cherokees use those relays for the fuel pump control, for the controls for the charging system and the ignition system. And on the earlier models, if you ever have a Jeep XJ, the Cherokee, and you get to a point where it's got a few years on it, it's got a few miles on it, and for some reason it has an intermittent starting issue, make sure you have 4 of those relays in your jump box, because the fastest way to get that Jeep to run again is to pull the 4 relays out of the fuse box inside the hood, under the hood, replace all of them. Your Jeep will most likely start again and you can drive off, because usually 1 or 2 of those relays goes bad after a few years. And most people don't have the time or the inclination to test each relay and see which one it is that went bad. And I speak from experience, because I don't know how many times I used to get calls from buddies that had Cherokees. And they say, it stopped again. I'm over here at the Chevron. I'm over here at And I would just grab a bunch of them out of the box, show up, pull the old ones out, put the new ones in, say, fly be free. I'd take them home, test them, and the bad ones got thrown away, and the good ones went back in the box for
Hey.
emergency pickup. Now, these are the same relays that come with most wiring kits for horns and off-road lights. It's a standard relay. And so when I was testing this Jeep, and I'm working on it, trying it out, it has an automatic shutdown system,
Oh,
ASD. And so that uses the same relay. So when the Jeep would crank and it wouldn't start, I'd say, put a new one in, start it right up. So, it's got a few other odds and ends.
Right.
Guy will get a kick out of this. It has the shift cable for
Oh.
the floor shifter. So
Mhm.
that has to be replaced because it won't go fully into park, and you can't feel the detents appropriately. So the original cable that's now 22 years old is stretched. So I get to replace that. Another part that Dorman does not yet make.
They're either
So
new old stock or you got to make it.
I have to buy one. There are a couple of reman shops out of China.
Mhm.
Amazon has them, or I can buy one from Chrysler. Chrysler wants $200. Amazon wants about $50. Right now, Pioneer and Dorman don't make them, which is unfortunate. They make them for the 06 and newer, and they make them for the 98 and earlier, but not for the
Mm.
99 to 05, 99 to 04. Can't get one from them, but I can get a replacement. So it's all the little things. It's like the neutral safety switch on the transmission that has to be replaced on it because I can start it in neutral without touching the brakes.
Yeah, that gets in.
Wait
So
a
the interlock
minute.
isn't there. But I'm like, I can work with that too. So all of these bits and pieces, which that reminds me of something uh, for your panel wagon.
Panel truck.
Something you need to know about your panel truck.
Huh.
Your panel truck is a Suburban.
Technically, yeah.
It is
Mhm.
because the first
Without
Suburban was built. It was built in 1935. So the first of Suburbans were built in 35, and they carried that same model designation until I think they may not be making the Suburban. No, they still make the Suburban
They still
series.
make
Oh,
I
it.
they
think they
still
give it a
make the
slightly different
Suburban,
name.
but the panel truck,
But
the PT Cruiser, is the closest thing.
well, no, but your panel truck, the chassis, the vehicle, the body of your panel truck was the same as the Suburbans that were sold in that year. The difference is that they would have had some different changes. You wouldn't have had all the doors. You wouldn't have had some of the other components.
To let you know,
But
they still make panel trucks.
What?
The WTs, they have to be special order, and you have to have a manufacturer's license for it. It's considered a work vehicle, service vehicle, work vehicle. So they're not on a dealership.
Why,
You have to
why
order them.
would you
They're
take guide?
WTs.
Why are you
They have the two front doors, and they're all sealed
just
up,
please stop.
and only can special order them. They're not. You won't find them on the dealership. Nothing.
Okay.
They're because you can order work trucks without the bed on them, and you can put your own electrical boxes. But you have to go to a fleet manager to order it. So it's not a regular vehicle. So if you had a business that says I need these type of vehicles, this is what I need to order. Let's order the PTO and get it. Then you can actually get them,
Yeah.
but you'll never find them in a dealership. You'll never find them in a dealership.
No, it's fine. And honestly, I'd rather have the old
Mhm.
ones.
oh yeah,
Anyway.
if I was going to equip a business today, I would be doing what you're doing. I would be getting old chassis or old
old
bodies
shit and
and
putting it
putting
on.
them on newer chassis, and I would be cruising those all over the place and just letting people go crazy. It's the another popular thing has come back is putting old bodies on newer chassis for things like roll bats and for for building tow trucks and things like that because people love the old classic
Oh
bodies
yeah.
and putting them on the new running gear. Fab Rats built a beautiful rollback that they use by taking a late model Dodge heavy truck chassis, Cummings diesel and the whole 9 yards. And I think they put a 48 Chevrolet pickup cab on it, and then they put their own rollback. So a lot of folks love to do that. There's a there's another what is it? The guy that does Trail Made, Moab Off Road. He does off road recoveries. He's built some beautiful off road recovery vehicles, but he's got a friend that found an old Ford Model Double A truck,
Yeah.
and he is building him an off road recovery truck with this old
Yeah.
Model A Double A cab and a full custom back end for off road recoveries. That's become very popular.
Here's what I've noticed by talking. Remember, all I'm the old man at my job. Me and this guy Dan, and Dan isn't that much older than Guy and I. He's closer to your age, Rob. Where
No, she's old.
it's not right. No, Dan is actually very active and spry. For I would say he's in mid 60s because he was in the service when Guy and I were like freshmen.
Yeah.
So he's not, you know, I, I was born in 72. I think you were born in 71, Guy.
Mhm.
So I think, I think,
We're only about 6 months difference, really.
yeah. Oh, I learned. You learned so much more in 6 months than
Yeah.
like you're a mutant from the X-Men. But here's what is it? There's a scientific term for when people in multiple parts of the world are all picking up on the same wavelength and coming up with the same idea and doing basically the same thing. So, what I mean by this is in the 80s, in the mid 80s, we were obsessed with the late 50s. It's in a lot of the songs. The 57 Chevy was talked about all the time. And I can remember my dad saying the 57 Chevy wasn't that great anyway. Well, what was really good? Oh, I'd rather have a 56 T Bird. So out of all the cars, that's the one he talked about most. And that's why I want to paint the 66 baby blue because I would get my dad's ultimate car that he admitted to when I was in my early 20s or late teens was, well, I'd get a 56 a baby blue convertible 56 T-Bird. That's why I want to paint the 56 or the 66 C10, the one in blue, and we'll do it baby blue on the bottom with white top cab. But now what I've noticed, and remember, I'm a shameless self promoter. Sorry, it's just going to happen. Also, friendship promoter. But here's what I've noticed by showing people that are under 30 all of the pictures from they like the 50s. It's unanimous across the board, and even in the game Fallout, that the 50s is the rocket space look is really awesome. But I will say this most of the kids that I deal with really aren't impressed with my 40s rusty heaps, but they really are interested in the 66. So now, 40 years forward from the 80s, they're really interested in the 60s again. Because in the 90s, we were really interested in the 60s. In the 80s, we just made fun of the 60s. I don't have
Yeah.
a word
Well,
for this. I hope you two do.
That's
oh,
a little bit different because
yeah.
back in the day, I'm not gonna say anything. Well, me and you were growing up, Bill.
Mm.
My dad was in cars, but we were too. I recognize him because I lived with him and drove him, but I don't know if you remember. My dad always had classic cars, always had cars, so
Oh,
he
yeah.
always liked having nice cars around. So it was on it. And the one car that brought me and my brothers into the fold, and I don't know if you remember this, was he used to drive us to not the high school, to elementary school and the middle school in, before he sold it, was a 70 Trans Am.
Yes. However, honestly, when we would hang out, you guys, you and uh, Dan and Jimbo, they were you guys were way more excited about the Monte Carlo you had in the garage than the.
Well, we
Do you
like the
still
Monte
have that?
Carlo
What
for what it
happened
was.
to it? Was it maroon or was it red? I'm trying.
What was, but by that
I'm
time
trying to
my dad
remember.
already sold the Trans Am. So the car we were excited even before I met you
And
was the
then the
70 Trans
Celica.
Am.
After the
No,
well, the
the
Trans Am,
Celica.
of course, you were excited about the Trans Am, yes, but the Monte Carlo was more like the way I talk about it was more like a project car than it was like,
No,
yeah, it wasn't. You still have it?
no,
Please tell me
the
you still
Trans
have
Am.
the Monte Carlo.
No, the Monte Carlo's gone.
Oh,
Monte Carlo's gone.
it was a
Um,
71, wasn't it? Or it was a
no, 76, 77.
was it?
77 Chevy Monte Carlo. No, it's that the car that did it for us, like for your dad, was the Trans Am, and the Trans Am's what made us study up everything. What I know about cars was because of that introduction of that car.
No
To
wonder
me, it
it's
wasn't.
on your wish list for top five.
Well, no, that Trans Am's different. If it's muscle car wish list, that's totally different. My muscle car wish list is totally different. And that's what made me a Pontiac guy. See, this is the so you can understand this. What brought me into cars wasn't the Monte Carlo. I knew about cars about then. The Monte Carlo was just a nice opportunity to see if we could fix it, get it running, and make it something. The Trans Am, we all have Trans Ams, which means we hunted them and got them. That's what gave us into our fever for car collecting. If you ever notice, boss, we grow up, what car did we always have in the driveway?
That's
And we
true.
still
Yeah.
do.
So Dan has
Every
one, Jim
rendition.
has one, your dad, you. But your dad's got the
Every
Avante, you've got the Lead Sled, you've got the Great Go. You guys have a lot of cars.
Well, between us, we owned every model a year of a second generation Trans Am.
I
Every
believe it.
second generation from 70 to 81. We've owned, we've driven from Trans Am to Formula to
You
Firebird.
guys are sneaky and would even put one in your mother's name. I believe that would happen.
Well, all the Firebirds were in our
Poor
name.
lady.
The
She's so
certain
sweet.
cars, other cars is if my mom fell in love with it and my dad, it's like the Avanti's in my mom's and dad's name. The van is in my mom's and dad's name. But that Trans Am that my dad had started something just with us as kids into muscle cars, into hot rods, into the performance, into everything. So that sparked what me and my brothers know now, what we became. So that was the impetus. Because before then, they were cars. My dad had a Lincoln Continental, which we loved. It was a Continental. It was big, roomy. We liked playing with the lights. We also had a '74 Impala station wagon, which was great. We
Station
took on
wagon.
for
Yeah,
vacation.
they're
You
cool.
know, my mom drove that car, but the one that created it, the gusto, the pinnacle, the linchpin of everything was that Trans Am. Everything else was afterwards, and that was a Rammer 3, possibly built up to a Rammer 4 specs, 400 4-speed. Dunlop racing tires, got it out of California. That thing was fast, and my dad drove it, and I seen him put transmissions in it and so forth. And it was a Lucerne blue 4-speed. So he brought that car from the other house until we moved up here, and ever since that, Jimmy's owned them, Danny's owned them, owned several of them. My dad. That got us into the smoking the Bandit Trans Ams. Then we started getting into the Chevelles, and it started snowballing. Then I got into the Grand Prix, and then we started really hoarding up some cars. We've had some cars because of our love for Trans Ams that other people would wish they had, and some of them that we had, people never knew they were out there until we actually acquired them. Because we had here, I'll give you an example. What year was the first turbo Trans Am?
78.
Nope.
Didn't Yanko test a turbo Yanko had tested a turbo on a couple of his Camaros, and he
Yep.
built it out so you could put it in the, because they shared the same platform, it was able to go onto the first gen Firebirds. But I don't remember them necessarily being, they were Yanko specific. So it was a case of you had to know somebody to be able to get one, and they were tested because I thought that was, and I may be misremembering this, but I thought that was part of his test to try and get past the cubic inch displacement problems that were coming about with NASCAR, because
You're
you could
you're
throw
right.
turbo on there and really cause trouble, because now you can make a small block think it was a big block.
You're right, but I
Without
think
having to
you're in a
bore it out.
different era.
Okay.
But Rob's in the right location, and a lot of people didn't know about this because we hunted rare Firebirds, Trans Am, and stuff on it. In 1979, Yanko built a Turbo Z, which exactly what Rob was saying. They were putting on a 350, they put a turbo on it, special edition, fast car. They were made for high-speed pursuit vehicles for the police and stuff on it, but they were also made out to
Like
the public.
interceptors.
Correct. But Pontiac made one too, but a lot of people don't know about this. It's made by Trans Am specialists. 400s and 455s can have a supercharger or an actual factory turbo.
That's a big engine. That's a lot of power.
And we had a 1979 403 original turbo Trans Am specialist car.
Well, see,
And
that's.
these,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, and what a lot of people don't realize is sometimes is we knew about these different cars because our research into Trans Ams, we loved it so much that we found it. We had it, had all the original HO Racing performance stuff on it, the original turbo with it, the underline on it. So it was an actual fact turbo car that was modified by Trans Am specialists, and it has a speedo in it that's authorized for high speed pursuit. And it was a black and gold Trans Am, T top and everything, 3 built seats, nice car.
Yeah, you guys have always been obsessed with those. But I mean,
Yeah,
there's
well,
I so many muscle cars, have come and gone. I don't, like they're making SUV Porsches and Mustangs now, and it's. But I mean, that's the world. The world we grew up in doesn't exist anymore. But the relics from the world do, and we need to preserve them, and that's why I'm so psychotic about. Because, Pete laughs at me. Oh, we can restore it. Oh, we can. Why waste our time? We've got to, just, sell it for what you can and move on. And no, dude, this is history. This car has a story. It's been around forever. But what I have. Oh, did you talk to your dad about the Avante and allowing us to come over with our phones and interview him and interview?
It's going to be more easier because he doesn't be on camera
He doesn't
and
want.
the house
Oh, fine.
don't want to be on camera and stuff on it.
That's fine.
It's going to be more. It's going to be more easier if we talk about the Gray Ghost first and you see how that goes than with the Avanti.
Is it at the
Because he
house
does
or is it in storage?
no. It's at my lot, my thing. So
you'd
the
have to
the
bring it
Gray
to
Ghost we can, huh? No, we can go over there and film
We
it there.
can.
Hmm? So the Gray Ghost, we could talk about it there. We could talk about my other hidden Trans Am over there, and all the stuff
There's
that I got.
another. Wait a minute, ladies and gentlemen. There's another hidden Trans Am.
Yeah.
You're like one of those like rock stars that has surprised children. Wait, there's another baby.
Yeah.
What do you mean his
Yeah.
daughter? He doesn't have a daughter. He has 3 There's a daughter?
Yeah. Because my dad likes his privacy, my dad and stuff on it. So he likes the idea of it. Don't mind talking about it, but he doesn't like
Your
ideas
dad for
showing the house.
decades. He's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Oh God, the last thing I want to do is piss your parents off. I'm at war with my mother, but oops. It's cars. Yeah, the Trans Am. We should show that. And damn it, I don't want to turn this into a psychological delve into my.
No, but technically, is we can do on the Trans Am. Will it run?
Oh, don't tease me like that, because now you've opened. Can we do both?
Yeah. It depends on what you want, how I want to do with it.
Okay.
Because the car altogether, technically, it should run. It's going to need some stuff on it, but it's
Okay.
technically
I
it can run.
can tour. I can. Okay, I can use the F-150 to tow vehicles. The trailer is 22 feet long. It's up at the ranch waiting for me. I mean, obviously, I moved a whole lot of vehicles with it. Where's the Trans Am? Well, anyway.
It's in
So
the
the
garage.
Avante, can we do?
Yeah.
That's probably. Oh my God. Okay, we will organize this in between
future.
shows. Thank you. Well, I mean, you said you wanted to do all cars for January, and I completely agree. And Rob was on board. And dude, people that aren't into cars get bored of car conversations. But even if you know a lot or you don't know anything, most people like to listen to other people talk about cars because it's a level of passion, like sports or video games or anything else. Where some people are like, okay, I practically break my neck seeing a car from the 30s in traffic when I'm driving by. I'm that Neanderthal around. Well, let's face it, we live in a different world now. You can't look at beautiful women, but cars, you can stare at those all day long and ooh and awe and talk dirty to them, and no one just, they think you're just crazy. So, but yeah, I've noticed that circling back, all of the guys that I work with, they're way more impressed with the 66 C10 than they are with the panel trucks. But then again, they think that the 58s and all of the, I've shown them multiple pictures of the ranch, and they like it, but they seem to be more interested in the late 60s. Kids today. There, I said it correctly.
Well, what I find out with kids today and talking to some other ones
Say it
about
right, guys.
cars
Say it
and
right.
stuff,
Say kids today.
the kids today, is that they like the mechanicalism and how it is. To them, it's archaic because you're not going to have disc brakes on it. You're not going to have power steering on all these vehicles. You're not going to have power windows. You're not going to drive by wire. You're not going to do any of this. It's a mechanical thing. It is constructed. You drive it, and driving those type of cars are different than driving any other cars on the road. So it's this little bit of wow. It's you see, it's a little bit of wonder because you're not going to experience it or know about it until you looked at it. So to them, it's like, oh, this is old stuff. To them, they're discovering something new. They've never been around it. They're not used to it. This is seeing something new. So to them, it's all interesting onto it. Whether they want it or not, to them, it's interesting, which is half the battle right there.
Yeah.
Is, ooh, I didn't know they made a truck this old. Oh, how cool it looks. They just discovered it for themselves.
That's half the fun of hanging out with Pete and his friends. You damn kids. I'm 52. I'm not a kid. Okay, whatever. Or did I tell you that one guy that I made the video of? He's like, he and Pete were talking and they got into a big discussion and it was technical. And the guy wasn't following along and Pete wasn't slowing down. And finally he's like, you kids. And and the guy's like, first of all, I'm not a kid. I'm 40 years old. And he's like, and this and this and this. And you're going on. And I understand most of what you're saying, but I don't get it all. And it was kind of tense. And to break up the tension, and I looked at the customer and I'm like, well, if it makes you feel any better, he calls me a kid at least twice every time I come here, which is a lot. And I'm 52 years old. I just laugh at him. You kid. I wish. I mean, no.
I have been spared that thus far, but I don't know how old he believes me.
No.
The future is dumb. And back in the 90s, when you went to buy liquor or cigarettes, because I was a cashier at Mobile, Guy came in and visited me many times at Tatum and Thunderbird, which is Scottsdale and Phoenix are right next to each other, and Tatum is the dividing line. And it's called Tatum but really it's 48th Street because there is no 48th Street. So
Because Scottsdale don't want to be in the streets.
it's dumb.
That's what I always used to say.
He's not wrong. So Scottsdale is well to do. Even okay, let me put this into perspective for Rob, because this is what and Guy's house was a lot more. But the house that I grew up in, that my mother still lives in, my father's no longer around, it keeps showing stuff on the hand. We don't want to see who's on my friends list in Steam. So in 1980, a brand new house was $235,000. Just to put it into perspective. So Guy and I we grew up with annoying fucking and Ron too, because Ron doesn't qualify as a rich kid. He doesn't have that mentality. But we grew up with narcissistic rich kids, and they become sociopaths basically. But what I noticed from working at the gas station was that your average person really doesn't know anything about cars. Nothing. And no, I've totally lost my point. Damn it! I hate it when I get so mad. I forget what I was talking about.
I know what you were getting at.
We were talking about the future, and I was mad about something. And from this, so it really freaks me out that today I'm into historic cars. You like to restore them? Oh yeah, because this happened 2 years ago at Dairy Queen. Which kind of historic car? Because I'm into the late 40s. Oh no, the early 90s or the mid 90s Toyotas. Those are historic to you. We used to make fun of those when they came. Oh, I gotta go lay down.
Yep.
You've hurt me in a way I can't explain to you. Well,
I had the old man realization the other night myself. So yeah,
do tell.
I know you saw it, but I don't think Guy saw it. I had the old man realization walking around the house with a pair of glasses in my hand, trying to remember which glasses are these. The cigar room glasses? No. Are these the living room glasses? No. Are these these are the bathroom glasses. Hang your head in shame.
Yeah, read in the bathroom.
Well, I'm 52. You guys got 25 years, and then I go from superhuman to peeing my pants and not making any sense and getting lost, going to places I've been to for decades. So that's why we got to get all the vehicles done now before, yeah. But it's weird that, hey, this was at work. Hey, Tanner, do you like the Marx Brothers? Who? The Marx Brothers. Chico, Harpo, Groucho, Zimmo, Gummo. I don't know who that is. Well, they're kind of like the Three Stooges. You know who the Three Stooges are, right? Who? I had to show him who the Marx Brothers were and explain. Go ahead.
You know the funny thing is, we had that same discussion, me and my dad, and we were talking when we were at the Bear Jackson, because we saw a lot of newer cars come through, and I was telling my dad that a lot of newer people, these cars are their holy grails, and we don't realize it. And my dad's like, well, why would somebody bet on a car like that? I said, well, Dad, take it back 20 years, early 2000s. If you were a real young kid, like my nieces and nephews, what were you playing? Video games. Grand Theft Auto. You were doing Gran Turismo. You were doing Forza. The cars in the early 90s in those games were the cars that you bought and sold in those video games. 20 years into the future, those are the cars people want of their youth. They not necessarily had to drive them. Like I was telling my dad, the cars that we had that we want to get back is cars that we had or familiar with or understand. The newer generations are cars that they've seen in movies, in video games, and always coveted and wanted them. So now you see a market on Skylines. You see a market on Toyota Supras, 1994 Supras. They're making the same money that they were brand new and even more. That's what the millennials want. So a lot of those things pass on for different generations for different types of vehicles, depending on what's current at the moment. When we were in the 90s and 94, when we were going to college, Bill, those cars were a dime a dozen running around everywhere. The Integras, if you remembered. Everybody wanted an Acura Integra. Everyone wanted a Civic hatch.
When's the last time you saw a Fiero, guy? Rob?
A long time ago.
A Pacer. When's the last time you saw an AMC Pacer?
Well, nobody's seen an AMC Pacer except in nobody wanted to be seen in a Pacer, and they still don't want to be seen in a Pacer.
God, no.
But when you look at when we're looking at high school cars and people at high school cars, the high school cars now are the basic cars of yesteryear. So if you really look at the high school cars right now, there is no performance. Like when me and you, Bill, when we were in high school, a lot of people had muscle cars. Yeah. A lot of people had secondhand cars, hot rod cars, peeling out, you name it. Or high school trucks. Now, when you drive by, they're just trucks. They're Jeep Cherokees. They're all basic vehicles. Yeah. Run of the mill. It's all vanilla. There's no different spice in it. There's no different there. You might have one car that might be a custom Challenger in there, or a 2010 Camaro. You know, that might have some rims and stuff on it, but nothing of performance, nothing of where they really go out and build it. Not anymore.
There's a few styles like the Elantra that harken back to an earlier day, but you're right. Most of them are just kind of like stretched out droplets of water. We've gone beyond the electric shaver look. And that's why I was trying to get to this too, is that I'm kind of upset in a way, and I would definitely trade the 54 because Pete's kind of given that one to me because he wrote it off because he already made his money on it. So he doesn't give a crap about the 235 with the transmission in my backyard, nor the cab, the hood, the grill, or the inside-outside front fenders for the 54 white one because it needs a lot of work. But even though it's a 54, 55 is the year that the rocket look takes off. And it's a dead sexy look. And I think that's why they were obsessed with it again in the 80s. Like Billy Joel wrote songs, 57, about, well, again, I absolutely love Billy Joel, but let's be real. When he's depressed, he writes some of the most incredible music that's ever been written. When he's in love, don't buy that album.
Well, I do agree with you, but a lot of people have to do about marketing and about what's in the theaters. I'll give you a prime example.
Yeah.
And people don't realize this. With cars and everything, there's a lot of people that are lemmings, and I'll give you an example. 57 Chevy. Why is it so popular? Not because it's an outstanding car. It's a Chevy. It's used in media, in movies.
Yeah. It's when really they do no a 50, different than the 56, the 58. There's not a lot of...
Not a lot of different. Well, I give you an example. Watch what I tell you now as we pass through the generations that you look at.
Tell me that's physically impossible.
Yeah. But, yeah, it is physically impossible. But watch what happens. Whenever they had a screenplay of depicting something in the 50s, they always either had to have a lead sled, a 50 Merc of some sort, a 57 Chevy Thunderbird, or they had to have a hot rod. Okay. That was stereotypical motion pictures. People follow motion pictures. I'll give you a perfect example. Fast and Furious. The cars in Fast and Furious were regular cars that were all painted up.
Okay.
After Fast and Furious, everybody coveted those cars and wanted them.
What you're saying, because I keep learning this. Okay, it's dog time instead of cat time.
Yep. And here's another one. I'll give you a perfect example. Gone in 60 seconds. The one with Nicolas Cage, the new one. The first one, no
It's
one
not
cared
new
about that
anymore,
one.
dude. We're old.
Not
We're
new,
old men now.
but it's the newest version. It's the newest version, even though it was back in
Better.
2000. Is
Even
that
though.
everybody wanted that Mustang because it was so popular, so new, so different. But it's just a Mustang. It's not even a true Shelby. It's a mock-up. But those now, cars that were authorized by those, sell close to $1 million.
Ooh.
But because of the movie, yeah,
It's a 7. Is it a 68 or a?
a 67 Mustang dressed up like a Shelby.
Now wait, 65. Okay,
No, it's a 67. It's a 67 Mustang.
Barracuda. It comes out first, and then Mustang, and then what Chevys answer to it?
It wasn't
comes out.
Huh?
The Camaro comes out to
But that
go
comes out in the late
head-to-head.
70s. We're talking about the early 60s.
No, the Camaro came out in the 60s.
Hmm?
The Mustang came out in 64 and a
I'm
half.
wrong. I apologize.
Yeah, the
Don't
Mustang
beat me
came
up
out
in
in
the
64 and a half. The Camaro came out. It was designed in 66. Actually, it was designed before that, but it was designed and shown in 66 for 67, and that was their answer to the Mustang, because the Mustang was the first mid-sized
I thought the
small
Barracuda was
platform V8.
Well,
The
I'll give you-
Barracuda was the first attempt, but it didn't pick up anything like that.
But I
The
got
66 Barracuda and the 67 Barracuda, they were an answer to the Mustang.
Because my father
Because the
said that the
Barracuda-
Mustang in the very, 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 very beginning in '66 was that's like a bug. That's a woman's car.
64 and a half, because it only came with a 6-cylinder.
Yeah.
I
So
love
64 and a half,
Mustangs,
the
but
first release of Mustang was only a 6-cylinder, and it was a secretary's car. That was kind of the idea behind it. And then the executives, actually the racers in the executive suite, looked at it and said, "Bullshit!
Wait
we
a
need
minute.
to put a 260 in it.
Hold
We can
on
put
a
a
moment.
260 in this thing, and it will hustle." And then they
Hey,
said,
Bill.
"Oh, wait a minute! We've got a 289. Let's really have fun with this."
Bill, I'll introduce you why there's a confusion between it. Because you're looking at a pony car versus a muscle car.
Oh, okay.
And a Mustang 64, 64 Valiant, 64 Cuda was just a secretary's a cheap car. Was a little pony car, was a little service car.
Yeah.
No horsepower, no nothing in it. Then you had the 64 GTO, big block in a mid-sized car. So it went to a totally different direction, because you had a 64 and a half Ford Mustang. You had a little 6-cylinder, 3-speed. That was it. Drum brakes all around. It wasn't a performance vehicle. Same thing with the Barracuda and the Valiant. They had the little
Valiant. We didn't even give that a shout out.
and that was back in 1962. So there was nothing about performance. It was pure economy. That's why it was considered secretary's car.
Yeah.
Then you had the GTO, considered one of the first muscle cars, because it was a small body that they stuffed a big engine into it, and it created the power race.
Gotcha.
Then later on, Mustang became Shelby when they started putting the 289s and started building them up.
Yeah.
Then Plymouth and Dodge got into it by sticking the 340s, the 383s. Then the Barracuda became the Hemi Cuda over time. So then you got it. They became more muscle cars, but they started out as a pony car. They're all considered pony cars, but they were just considered daily drivers. They were the Toyota Celicas of the day. They were just regular small cars, fuel economy, no performance. Then because of what happened with Pontiac and everything, and with racing in general, and with Shelby and with the Ram Chargers, then they became more muscular, more horsepower, more race.
Bigger balls.
inspired.
Yeah, I got it.
That's why your dad was saying that Mustang is a secretary's car, because that's what it was originally designed as.
And not to be like, oh, that's a girl's car. He owned a '66.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
He
but that was
drove
when
it,
the V8s were available.
Yeah,
The 66, the GT series in the Mustangs became really important, because you could get a 360, then the 390. And now you had the big block, the big Ford V8 that was available at the time. and then it became a race. So Carol
Yeah.
Shelby said, "Oh, I can,
Shelby.
you gave me 390s, but I want your new 427,"
Here we go.
and decided to make the new fenders, the inner fenders, and the shock towers and everything, and literally shoehorn this big block into the
A race
67
car. Yeah.
and made a violent vehicle. I mean, with the 427, and then when Ford came out with the Cammer 427, that made the Mustang a violent car
Yeah, I don't know. I
to
don't
put
know.
that power in. That thing was just
That's too much.
outrageous.
That's too much nonsense. Shenanigans, as my boss would say.
I mean, that car was, when they put that 427 cam motor in their NASCAR vehicles, that thing was frightening. And that's
Yeah.
where it got basically banned because it was too much. Just like the big elephants from Chrysler originally got banned from NASCAR because there were groups that said, "Oh, this is not fair. This is not fair." It's like, well, go out and build your own crazy motor and bring it back, and don't scream about being not fair. Make your car more aggressive. No, I have more money to pay NASCAR to get them to block your motor. It's easier. Okay.
I'd rather have a Cougar than a Mustang anyway. I love
Well, the big
Mustangs,
thing,
don't get me wrong.
but that proves right there is that those cars weren't designed initially to have big engines in them,
No.
and they were shoehorned to be put into them. Then later on, they had to redesign them in '67 to accommodate the new motors. So what happened was you went from a small car
Here's for your bigger
that was,
dick. We need bigger frames.
we need bigger frames, we need bigger shock towers, we need to reinforce the subframes. So what happens was between '64 and '66, you started getting into the racing and the car performance. Then everybody rebodied their cars in '67, and that's when the explosion of big blocks happened. Then it happened in '69 and '70. Was mine's bigger? No, yours is bigger than ours. We'll make one bigger than yours, and it went back and forth until the EPA and all the rest said, "No, you guys are getting too ridiculous. We got to slow this down." But that's what happened. Those original pony cars and stuff, Mustangs, on it. But going back to what I was saying, with that in mind, is that when people are showing a car, and sometimes it becomes into the zeitgeist, it stays in there for a long time, because when you think of something, it becomes attached to it. So if you think of, let me ask you this: when you think of a greaser, what car do you associate with a greaser?
Early 50s Chevy. Basically, I would see, now that I've learned a whole bunch, I would see greasers in blackout cars or rat rods.
There you go. And greasers had motorcycles. Greasers had different types of ways. So it wasn't exactly all that all the time. But that's, how could I say?
We have to add Reverend Fish Crackers to the show if we're going to talk about motorcycles.
Yeah.
He's
So
got a
what happened is,
what is it, a Kicker? 5150? Yeah. It's not really a Harley, it's like a clone. He'd like to get
it could be
$2,000 for it. I think he's got a title.
okay.
It runs.
When I say about JDM, when you think of a Japanese car,
oh, car.
What do you think?
I don't know anything about motorcycles. Go ahead.
No. I'm not asking that question because I know you don't nothing about motorcycles. But when you think of a JDM, let's say you think of, like in TV shows, what do you think of?
JDM. I don't.
Yeah,
That's
for
not
Japanese.
fair. I don't really know a lot about. Well, there's Mazda, and I don't know. I'm ignorant.
Okay.
to Asian
Look
cars.
at any TV show, anything that has
Honda
to do with
Hyundai
street racing,
and a couple
with
of
street
these.
racing and stuff on it, and they will come up with a car that looks out of the Fast and Furious.
You're Mr. Street Racing guy. I've never ever done that in my life. Well, I don't want to out you.
Yeah, but the stereotypes
street
hold
racing
true.
activities.
Well, what the racing activities were one thing. It's totally different of what you see in the movies. It's totally different thing. But what you see in the movies become reflective that whenever there's a street racer, it's always referring to back Fast and Furious. It's that type of street racer. not the type that I'm used to or what I've actually seen, the real street racer. They always refer to that type of street racer. So it's stereotypical. The bad guy drives a black car, the good guy drives this car. It's always stereotypical. And that carries on. So that's why the 57 Chevy, everybody loves it, because it's a stereotypical car. The Thunderbird, used by the damsel or the hero, a stereotypical car in movies, TVs, commercials, videos. So what happens is people grow attached to these cars, and because of that, the market for these cars are coveted. People like their cars. Like I gave you an example. A couple cars that people like no matter what. 69 Camaro. Why? You've seen it in many different type of TV shows, many different type of movies. Even though if it wasn't, yeah. Um, people love the car. They loved the 70 Chevelle. They love the 70 Chevelle SF.
Right. Yep.
They've been in movies. People love that car. People want the 70 Challenger. People love the You could have a 71, 72 Challenger. 71. CUDA, a 70 or 71. 69. You could have a 69 CUDA.
There's a 69 Barracuda out on the ranch, and it belongs to Dave Lewis, but he wants $9,000 for it. And it's like, dude, you don't know if this thing... Oh, it ran when I parked it. That's everybody's story, and you're missing a passenger side fender and the grill.
Yeah, but the point is, it's 69. If that would have been 70, 1 year different, he could have got the 9 out of it. He could get around 10 or 12. Because everybody wants the 70, not the 69.
If I won the mega lottery, like we joked about, I'd give you $9,000 for it just to restore it and get it on the road, because I have this crazy idealistic notion that all of them should be restored and on the road. I've got rid of all my standing water everywhere in the yard, and yet there's still gnats. It's January. All of the bugs should freeze to death and go back to hell where they belong. Sorry.
You need to get some chameleons. Turn them loose in the house. They'll take care of it.
I had a thriving lizard population until 2005. Now I have cats from then on.
Yeah.
So
that's why.
8 cats. There's not a lot of lizards around my house. Well, there's parts of lizards around my house. Now and then I'll be cleaning and I'll be like, oh, poor soul.
Yeah.
You get an iguana and let him run around the house, and then the cats will disappear.
The cats don't know what to make of the iguana. They're like, when I had them, they just kind of like, whoa, it's a giant green lizard. I've never seen one of these before.
I can't pull his tail off.
Yeah, it's like, meanwhile, the iguana's like, let's go, let's dance. I can take out your eye with the end of my tail, right? I kind of believe you, actually. I need a fly swatter. Because the back scratcher just doesn't do it. It's not thick enough. It's just bamboo. Anyway, cars. We love cars. They're part of our history. And the more they try to make them automated or things like that. But Guy, originally last week, we wanted to talk about Guy. Guy had a, do die cast and Matchbox and Hot Wheels. And what's the other one?
Matchbox, Hot Wheels, models, anything basically
models.
of
it.
Revell, Monogram.
We've all been, are kids today still building model cars with their dads?
Well, that's the biggest thing about it. Like, what for you out in the audience, this is what me and Bill were talking about off screen, is that there's always a gateway to something. Whatever you do, there's always something to get you into something. And
models are a gateway drug to restoration.
It is. Because what happens is, like Bill, like you were talking about, Hot Wheels back when you were a kid, when you had the little Hot Wheel. You loved the Hot Wheel and you could spend hours playing with it, scenarios, jumping it, wrecking it, and so forth. Then later, the curiosities, how's it work? You went into models where I started assembling it. You started painting them with brush paints. You painted your Hot Wheels with brushes. And you progressed to models. models was the gateway building to understanding working components. What's this? Oh, that's a header. What's this? Those are the heads. What's
Yeah.
this? That's a carburetor.
This is
What's a
the
carburetor?
exhaust. This is the
This is
air filter.
and fender. So once you start building a model and start painting them, then you went into the real things, the cars and stuff on it, or you went into bicycles.
Oh my
So it always
God.
segues into something else. So, so
Yeah.
Hot Wheels, any little Hot Wheel that you get like this, okay, is that this is a Cougar. It's based on a 68, 69 Cougar. Okay, so a
67
little
was the
kid will
first year, but I will take any
67.
67 or 68 if you've got them. I'm interested in them.
So a little kid will look at this and go, "What is
I don't have
this?"
any money.
The dad would tell him. Now their curiosity is spiked
Yes.
because it's not just the cars. What is it? What is it? So eventually you do researches. Then you will get a model of it. Well, how many Cougars were they? Who manufactured them? Where they were made? Are they still here? Can I get one? Can I see one? Then over time, just with Hot Wheels, that curiosity, if you reckon it making it fly through the air and stuff,
Yeah.
is that it becomes something of an acquired
No.
taste that later on you get a model.
It's no. Hold on. It's all relative. This will hopefully all tie in. So, my dad. I can remember the discussion. You like panel trucks, so yeah, I do. They're really neat. This is in Tempe when we first moved here. There's a
Mm-hmm.
movie about a kangaroo that boxes, and it's called Matilda. And there's a panel truck. Look, I got the model. So we like built the model while I was watching the movie. I was like, oh my God. And my father was like impressed with, oh, look, they put a bubble in top of that. You know, we could just cut a hole in there and make one of those. So I still have the model. I think it's out in the living room. I don't have time to get it. It's not important. I'll take a picture of it later and post it on Facebook. Like and subscribe. But it's along the same thing. Along the,
It always starts somewhere and it starts slowly and it builds on. And a lot of things that we got, like I still collect Hot Wheels to this day. I still build models to this day. It's because it's a passion of cars that I have. So some cars I'm never going to be able to afford. I would love to have a 1964, 65, 256 GTB Ferrari.
support Guy's dream and donate
Dream.
now to the
Don't know.
Supreme.
But I
Even
know
if it's a piece of shit, we'll restore it and make
we'll
videos.
fix it. It will happen. But until then, a model will suffice. A die cast will suffice. A Hot Wheel will suffice. And a lot of people sometimes get die cast mixed up with Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels is a small version of die cast. But what I'm talking about is the 124, 125 metal cars that with the doors and windows and stuff on it. So a lot of times, this is where our first frontier is into cars, automotive engineering, building stuff, rockets and stuff on it. You get into these little die casts, the little Hot Wheels and stuff, then it creates its own fandom, and that fandom goes this way. Models go this way. That with models,
Excuse me.
yeah, with models, you have people that are now going into the next generation, and they're doing this with Hot Wheels. Is that with 3D printers that they're producing, printing new scans of old models or models that didn't exist. So you could take an existing model and retrofit it and make it into something else. So you want to build this particular car that they never built? You take this model here, you use it for parts, you put this body on it, and now you can make your car 3D printed. So people are doing that. Hot Wheels, the 3D printing parts for Hot Wheels for the older classics that we had to replace the plastics that got torn off of them. So now you have a whole restoration market for classic Hot Wheels. Decals, paints, tires, interiors, and hoods and body parts. And I looked at that and went, how interesting that now Hot Wheels that we trashed, and I know we had hundreds of them, Bill,
Oh
between me
yeah.
and you and Rob, that we
Launching them off
stomped on.
stuff and yeah, endless
We come
torture
off
for those things.
into
Firecrackers.
purple.
It was great.
There's people that are restoring them and put them back into original conditions. Paints and stuff that you can do, that you can find, that you can build for any of the old classic Hot Wheels, Red Lions,
Oh yeah.
Mac, and it's a big. How could I say? There's a big following that it's worldwide. I didn't recognize this until I started getting into the models, into this stuff on it. That Facebook, Instagram, there is people that follow this like a fever pitch. They go through the trouble of restoring the ugliest Hot Wheel and make it a thing of beauty because they went and wanted to bring it back to original shape. That they
Yeah.
3D printed original Redline tires, axles. I mean the with the light glass that they had in them that you can
No,
buy now. You can get them on eBay.
Guy, you actually, Guy, in your infinite wisdom and position on the council, you have unlocked a not just psychological but social secret that, if solved, and if everyday man and woman would learn this lesson, there would be peace across the board. We can actually get some serious work done, and that is models and die-cast cars to men are shoes to women. Because I worked, I have sisters. I have ex-wife, well, one ex-wife. Two. You don't have to live. You don't need a letter to be, you know. If you live with somebody for a bunch of years, you're technically married. Anyway, my point is that I thought I knew women, but you really don't know women. And 2008, I worked at Payless Shoe Source, and my amazing manager Christy there finally solved the answer that I could never understand, because what didn't make any sense to me is three types of women go into the store. I have a job interview. I have a job interview. I need a new pair of shoes. We were shopping. Oh my God, shoes! And I never understand the shoes thing. Or what's the other thing? I have a wedding. I have this and that. And what else I understood was that, say there's one woman that's just at the mall and decided to look at shoes. If two women are on lunch and they look at shoes and they get all excited about a shoe, even if it's not her size, she'll go down there. The woman all by herself will go down and look at the shoe that the other two women that have come and gone will look at the shoe. So it's the same thing, because I told Christy, I'm like, I don't, I still don't understand the shoe thing. And she's like, you have to think about it in the way of Victoria's Secret was across the way. Look at that poster. That woman is absolutely gorgeous, and she's a size 0. Now, your average woman will never look like that woman. But she can buy the shoes that woman is wearing in that picture, and she can feel like that woman. So it's the same thing of, I'll never have enough money to buy this Ferrari, but I can make the model of the Ferrari, and now I don't know anything about Ferraris, and now I have the Ferrari, and so it's the same guy. You've unlocked, like, anybody watching this is now like 10 points higher on the wisdom scale, because it's the same.
It's the same thing with purses, with clothes. I'll tell you one thing is, I'm not a psychologist, but just with my years lived, and Robert, you can chime in on this. You probably experienced this too. Women like guys do this, and we're human. Okay, we see ourselves in that. So, like what you're hitting, women like certain purses because they can see themselves with the purse. They can see the shoes on them. Like when guys sometimes see a car, we see the potential going. I can fix it. I can save it. I can build this. I can do this. I would look great with that hat. I would look great with that jacket. The woman, the same thing, looks at it and goes, I would look great in those shoes. They visualize themselves in it. We can't see it because we don't. We buy shoes and we buy shoes. Oh, they fit. They're comfortable. Okay, we're practical. Women look at it. Oh, it looks stylish. I can wear this to here. I see myself looking like this. So as we look at things, we do the same thing. Like when I said with the car, I may never have that car, but I have that little thing of that car. I can visualize it and go, okay, and building it and so forth, or going through the experience. So everybody does it, man or woman, it just to different degrees. So when you look at a man and a woman and stuff on it, like their purses, the clothing, they could see themselves in that clothing and what they look and what it
Yeah.
makes them feel like.
She solved the mystery of shoes for me
Yep.
because I didn't know anything. I didn't fucking care about shoes. I was a guy. So here was the question during the orientation and watching the videos that you have to do at every job. Payless Shoe Source did a study. How many pairs of shoes does the average American male own in 2008? Please, both of you, give me an answer. The male, the dude.
About 4.
4. Good answer, guy. Rob,
I would say 4 or 5, depending upon who you are and what you do.
you guys had
What you doing?
great answers. You know what the American average is? 8.
What? 8.
8.
I could see that.
Okay, here's what will blow your fucking mind. We're going to go to the women now. Please give your answers. Oh, squidge it.
16.
24, only because I had to build a damn shoe rack.
You're both
That's a good answer. Logical.
You're both off. You ready for the answer? Now again. Tail. Butthole. Thank you, Squidget. She's so old. You know, we want to hear the answer that they paid hundreds of thousands, a lot of money for?
Yeah.
35.
35.
Now, every woman I've lived with, that's an understatement. 35 is shooting low. Then again, you know, I've dated some weird and lived with some weird chicks where they bring duffel bags full of shoes into the, and they never wear them. But 35.
Okay.
Wow.
You want to hear the funny thing about shoes again? I kind of miss my job there. Like I miss like working at Toys R Us because it had the fun psychological like ramifications. But the new job has different fun psychological fun
Ramifications.
But there's always in Paradise Valley Mall in 2008, the men's aisle of shoes was only one aisle, and the other 3 aisles were dedicated to women and children, obviously, because kids. And that's, I don't want to make creepy, but what I noticed about the dudes is there are some women that are 5'8" and taller that have larger feet that actually go up into the 12 and 13, but mostly most of your girls that are above 6 feet tall, they're going to have larger feet. So a lot of these ladies were overjoyed when we had size 13, 14 for women. But the other side is that it's sales, and it's low pressure sales because, dude, it's Payless Shoe Source.
You come in and you buy it. Yeah.
The most expensive shoe we have is $34.99 or whatever, and don't be showing your butthole on 2 live feeds. So
That's OnlyFans.
that's oh, that was good. OnlyFans squidget, all dirty and sexy. But I would notice that for me, I learned early on, and I used the line over and over and over in retail, and it worked because only assholes didn't laugh at it. But I would say, "Hi, I'm over here. Go ahead and take a look. If you need any help, just go ahead and scream and yell and jump up and down. I'll come running over." And even assistant managers were like, "Have you ever had anybody do that? Have you ever had anybody be like, ah?" And I'm like, "No. Okay, one time, but..." And I come to think of it, yeah, only like one time. Because they would chuckle at that. Because no one's going to scream and yell and jump up and down. Unless they're a lot of fun. like I said, like one older man was like, ah, I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like, oh, thank you.
He was testing the theory.
Yeah, but even he never did it again. It was like, you know, it was like that one time only joke because I never had to say it to him again. Oh, hey, when he came back in the next time, because, well, I look forward to his visit. He's cool, you know. So it's the same kind of premise where I didn't high pressure the people for it's shoes, dude. You either need them or you don't. Most of them are $20.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not making car payment commissions on the
exactly. Yeah,
sales
I
of
don't get
women's
any. Yeah,
pumps
I don't
size
get
six and a
tips. I don't
half.
get anything. I just clean the store and you leave. I'll tell you what. I would always.
You know, the funny thing is that when you were talking about the question, I had a question from a ex coworker of mine about 7 years ago, and she said, "Why are guys into this, or why do guys like this so much?" And she was asking about the car thing. Why do you guys build old cars? Why do you guys do it and do it for it? And I told her that for us, it's the closest thing of creating life or redoing something like a woman experienced giving birth. I said to us men, we like to build, we like to create, we like to renew, we like to bring back. So we're taking a thing that was once dead and we're bringing it back to life. We're using it to its fullest. So
Oh
to
yeah.
us, that's a great experience that I built that, I did that, I fixed that, I restored that. It's a feeling like, and I said, it's the closest feeling we will have to being like a proud mom when she gives birth. I did that.
Yeah.
I said that's the closest thing to make an analogy so the women could understand. I said that, then she understood because she couldn't understand why did people. Oh, yes, it's just an old car. To you, it is an old car. To us, that's something that can be fixed or restored. That has value.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a
where to
thing
you
of
doesn't have value.
beauty
To us,
rotting in the desert over there.
yeah.
Mhm.
So to her, after I said that analogy, she understood. Just like the shoe thing was why women collect shoes is like how we collect Hot Wheels and so forth on it.
Yeah.
Is we collect it for a certain reason. We collect different things for different reasons.
That's why I gave you the
And
wisdom title, dude. You hit the nail on the fucking head because. Oh, look. Let me finish real quick. I would go
okay,
over and the big, you know, larger sizes shoes and dude shoes. So I would catch dudes because most dudes that are there, like, I'm gonna dress as a woman on Halloween. They're not a secret transvestite, but most of the dudes would start looking at all the big women. You know, oh, size 12, I can fit into these. That's a size 10, and men. Hi, what are you? Oh, I'm sorry. Looking at cross trainers, hiking, being. I'm going hunting. What are you hunting? Marmot. They're dangerous. I need heavy boots. Dude, just buy the women's shoes. I don't give a shit. I'm a married man. You know, I don't want to know what you're doing.
no,
Which
but
I
you're
that's
can
exactly correct. Shoes to men, or I mean, shoes to women, and purses, and all of the things you previously have listed just now, and that Rob was talking about, are comic books, diecast cars, video games. I'm never gonna have a six pack abs, but I can play this guy in this first player video game, and he's got six pack abs.
or half-inch wrenches to mechanics.
Women
yeah.
want him. They don't treat him like a friend or somebody that they want. Yeah, can you get this guy to leave me alone? If I had a nickel for every time I played Enforcer,
That's right. Angel
I
shots at the
wouldn't have
bar.
to work.
Just
He's creepy.
well,
Make him go away. Well, what's he doing? He
it's
put
so
his hand on
interesting.
my ass. Well, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
It's so interesting that you say about the psychology because a lot of the stuff, even in fandom, there's always a psychology behind it. There's always a backing of it. Because I'll give you not an example, but people collect comic books because of the characters, right? But
Me. Yes.
sometimes it's stories involved that resonate with you. Those are the ones you covet and want. So even in comic books, not all comic books are the same. There's certain storylines that people want over other storylines because of what's in it. So with dresses, certain manufacturers are how they're made. Women covet dresses because of who they're made by and the style they're made in.
Or if they have
So
pockets, holy shit, they lose their mind if they have pockets. Okay,
because
it's got
pockets,
pockets. All right.
and if the pockets are hidden where they don't look like overdone pockets. So with women, the psychology is quite similar, but for different reasons. But when you look at it, same thing with purses. Design sometimes over function and function over design. So not all purses are the same, not all dresses are the same, not all shoes are the same. But each one is a different need. Like with men in shoes, it's like with dress clothes. You have one nice pair of shoes that you wear on Sundays or
Yeah.
for business attire. You have a pair of sneakers, you have some work shoes, and maybe a couple pair of work shoes.
Yeah.
Then you have shoes that you lounge around the house with.
Oh, hold on, hold on. And this, hold on. This is, I want to make a caveat to you're totally correct, but corporate has many levels. So you have like full on like tie and suit level, and then you have
Mhm.
like business casual. Because I have a
Business casual.
whole, but I have a lot of business casual because, well, I used to work in an office, and if you start showing up in the same clothes every day, they start looking at you sideways. It's not a uniform
Mhm.
like Taco Bell or just a polo shirt and a where when you're doing in the more high level, high dollar place, you're going to need a couple blazers and several pairs of shoes, belts. Yeah,
Correct. But there's a purpose for them. It's like even when I worked with doing auto mechanics and stuff,
yeah,
I had a couple pairs of different steel tip boots, and whenever they were on sale, I would buy one, two, three, or four of them. When one wore out, got ripped, the sole got bad,
yeah,
I either took them to get repaired, or if they weren't available to get repaired, I had another one ready to go, and I would throw those away, go into the next one.
yeah,
So for men, it's practicality, ease of use, and so forth. So I have more than
yeah.
one pair of shoes for work, one pair of shoes for dress, and so forth. But they're all within limits, and they have a purpose, like watches, suits, sunglasses, everything for it. For women, the biggest thing is for them is how they make them feel for who they're presenting it to. So to
I
the
mean,
girls,
I have shoes that'll go with this. Meanwhile, guys with cars, hey, those rims look good. Oh, you think
yep,
so? That's what I had lying around, so I slapped tires on them. Okay, I bought them
yep,
used. Yeah, none of those treads match. Those rims look awesome. Thanks.
yep,
That's essentially the same dynamic.
same thing.
Yeah, men don't give a shit. They
Mm-mm,
really don't.
really don't. But it's the beauty about it, and a collectability is like that so much.
Yeah,
Collectability, geekdom is so much like that like
agreed.
again, I believe Pokemon cards. People covet Pokemon cards differently depending on the generation that they grew up and whether they be male and female. Some of them are all the same across the board, and to some the different people, certain characters mean more to them than others. It's the curious thing. But even Pokemon and card game stuff, it's like that. People will go back and forth. The Superman, Batman, who's better? The Charizard, the Pikachu, you know, the Charmander, who's better? Back and
I,
forth.
I would have to say yes, because back in the day, baseball cards were king.
Mhm.
And they really do stay. I mean, basketball cards come and go, and then you get sci-fi. Because I was going through like old tubs of my crap, and holy crap, I have Gremlins and Star Wars cards and Battlestar Galactica. What the hell is this? I didn't even remember I had those. But then it isn't. I don't remember what it is for the girls, and I'm sure I'll be reprimanded on this, but it isn't really until like Garbage Pail Kids that, because Pogs and Slammers are happening at the same time in the early 90s, but then Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic and Pokemon is all really taking off at that time. And that's when, like the movie Comic Book Villains, but I mean, that was happening. You were starting to see these card games in comic book stores at All About Books and Comics, at Stalking Moon, at Atomic Comics, at what are some of the other ones, Guy? I'm drawing a blank.
You name the big ones: Atomic, Stalking Moon,
Ash,
all
Ash
about books
Street,
and
All
comics.
About
Fog
Books.
Hollow has
Fog
been
Hollow.
gone
Well, that one's been gone for a while.
a while. Yeah.
That lady
I-
was in her early 30s when we were pre-teens, so I don't know if she's still around.
and that's the biggest thing with fandom, with anything that's collectible, is that you see that it's a thing to hold on to. It's like an heirloom. A lot of people like certain things that they do with anything condom, with comics, with geek culture, that they covet, and then once they covet it, they want it for a long time. So car culture, Hot Wheels culture has a following that goes deeper than what the surface is on it. As most of the people that's listening to us right now and stuff on it, we're introducing them into uh, geek culture they may have never even understood that was out there.
Yeah.
With Barbie dolls, with dolls in general, with Japanese dolls. I can go on and
Oh
on with the
God,
different listings and stuff you can
let's
find
get
on True
Dwayne.
Geek.
Where's Dwayne?
Yeah,
Yeah,
not to mention Japanese action figures. Not to
he's
mention
really well versed on the anime and the video games.
so with all that, and so each generation has their own. Like to us, the old cars for us are the '70s cars. The '40s cars is our parents' cars. That's not our generation because we didn't grow up with those cars. We loved them because of our parents. I know about the '40s and '50s cars, but I never owned one because of my dad. He had them. He had them into the '70s. The cars I had were late '70s, '80s cars because they were secondhand during the '90s. So we always have like a generation pass. Like
Yeah.
younger kids, like my nieces and nephews, they're into the old classic '90s cars. Oh, that's neat. The 300ZX 87 turbo T-top car to me was a regular car, was a brand new car back then. But to them, it's a classic JDM type of style. They love that car. They love the Mazda rotary engines, the FX ones,
It's
like
strange.
'87.
It's weird to look at 52 years, and I mean, you ask kids in their 20s. We have a list to go through at work. Okay, this has been locked. This has been checked. Da, 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 da. Dude, we're like 2 hours ahead. Well, you don't want to just sit there because you're getting paid by the hour. But sometimes you get into discussions. So Tanner, who is, they're all friends that work together, and they're all in their early 20s. Jennifer is 20. Isaiah is her. I don't think they're married yet, but they live together. And Isaiah and Jordan are brothers, and Tanner is their friend. So they're all, they're hanging out after college, I guess, high school, being security guards at a beautiful, glorious resort. I showed him. Have you ever heard of this movie? Have you heard of this movie? Have you? The Usual Suspects. He had never heard of it. The Crow.
Yeah, never heard of.
True Romance. And there's a list. We could stay. I mean, we have 8 hours to spend together. What about this movie? I don't know what that is. But I showed him The Last Boy Scout and another one, and he's like, "Oh, that movie's so American." Well, that's where you live, dude. I mean, not to bash on Tanner. I don't want to like. He's in a couple of my videos. I enjoy working with him. But just that comment was like, "Oh man, are you guys guys like mad at your country? Still, that's like something for your like when you're 12. But then after you're 18, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, you're the bad guys sometimes. You know, we're also the good guys sometimes. It just depends on what's going on. You did this. Yeah, we did. You did that. Well, yeah, I can't argue, but oops, that was a long time ago. But he didn't know The Usual Suspects, Strange Days, True Romance, The Crow, the first one, 1994.
Well, you hit on a big thing that I know what you're talking about, Bill.
Talking
Is
about
that
being old.
well, really,
Sorry, guy.
but uh, it's disposability of items. The TVs now are disposable. You don't fix them. The cars are disposable now. You don't fix them. It's you use it, you abuse it, you lose it, and you forget about it. So what I've noticed with some of the younger generation and the younger kids and stuff on it is they don't build models anymore because they don't have the patience or the wherewithal to build a model. I can put a model in front of them, and they would look at everything and look at their phone.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know what to paint it. They wouldn't know what glue to use. They wouldn't know how to assemble it unless it was a snap together,
True.
and they still wouldn't do it. So what happens is the wonderment is gone. They had computers, they had everything. When we
Oh,
grew up, going into that field,
yeah.
war games was to us, oh my God, we could
War
die in a nuclear
games.
war games.
Would
To
you
them,
like to play a game?
to them,
Oh,
they have
Rob.
everything in the palm of their hands with everything of technology.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, sometimes they do stuff that is illogical because they don't have any wonderment left.
Yeah.
Like you once told me, Bill, all the greatest stories were already written. There's no new stories out. Very little, very fine new stories,
Till we
new
get
ideas, new
aliens.
concepts.
No.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. Would you or would you not wrap a new Cybertruck?
I'm conflicted
Robert
on
already knows
this.
where I'm going with this.
Space El Camino. Cosmic Ranchero. I'm torn on the Cybertruck because on one hand, god damn, that's ugly. On the other hand, I don't know what to do about it. I don't have an answer
Okay.
for it.
No, I didn't expect you to have an answer with it.
I don't know. I
Because you got to, when you think of it logically, you look at it and go,
it's
if you take a moment, step back, it's a stainless steel car. It's
yeah,
made like an appliance and so forth. So
Space El Camino.
it weathers differently than aluminum and other metals. When you wrap it, that glue's going to adhere to that stainless steel. It's going to tint it and change it and impose itself onto it.
Yeah.
So there's people I look now, I laugh because they don't think ahead. They only think of what's in the moment. They're wrapping their Cybertrucks. And I say, when they rip that wrap off of the Cybertrucks, that stainless steel is going to be ruined, tinted, or discarded where you cannot sand it out of that. It's going to ruin the value of those
You think
trucks
so?
because people want to be different and put these chrome illusion wraps on it, not thinking ahead that the glue that the wrap's using to adhere to it, it's going to pigment and change the stainless steel because they don't understand the vehicle that's in front of them. It's a DeLorean's aluminum. You leave it in a DeLorean. Why paint it? Because it's not going to rust, but you got to put paint on it to cause certain things to rust. So you don't wrap a new Cybertruck. Leave it alone. It's going to rust in certain locations, but it's not going to. So I see people wrapping Cybertrucks, and I look at them. You're never going to sand that off of the body. When you take it out, it's going to be a mess. That's like you taking concrete to your car outside and putting concrete or what people used to do, bed liner. You
Yeah,
literally have to
dealing with that
blast the body,
peel
get it off,
off.
and it's hard to take off. So that's the
The
equivalent
pain
of
in
you
the
taking a
ass.
brand new car now and spray painting it with bed liner. You
Well,
got to ruin that. It's so
yeah,
hard. So you got to use so many chemicals to take it off. You got to ruin it to try to fix it.
I can't argue that. I asked Tanner I said, when I was in high school, my senior year in high school, we had Apple IIe's in the classrooms. Remember, Guy?
Yes, I did.
And he looked at me like I had spoken Japanese. And he's like, I don't even know what that is. And he looked it up on his computer. And I'm like, you know what the big word was in the 90s was it 382, 386? Pentium.
386 processors.
You don't need anything else. I got 386 and 250 megabyte hard drive. Never need to buy anything else. Like I was speaking Mandarin Chinese. He's like, I don't even know what that is. He had to look it up. Like, he showed me on the computer. I'm like, yep, that's what they look like.
Well, it's kind of interesting because what happens as the generations go by with cars and what everything is, they lose an aspect of the basicness of it. It's like where people, I hate to say it, is the smarter the phones, the dumber we become.
I wouldn't hate to say that. Go ahead.
A comedian said it, but it's true. Is there's more people that cannot tell the time on the face of a watch now than it was back in the 90s when we were growing up. People can't read a clock anymore. They don't know what a clock is. They don't understand it. They look at their phone. But if you put a watch on their wrist, they couldn't tell you the time. They wouldn't know the AM or PM on it. With it, people don't remember phone numbers. Before, you had to remember our phone numbers. We didn't have a book. We didn't have nothing.
675309867. Jenny, you don't know me, but you make me so happy. Oh, that's creepy.
we remember that stuff, but now people don't. It's just when you look at it, and I talk to in the gaming community, I talk to people and stuff on it, and sometimes when you look at it, they don't have no point of reference to it because they never experienced it. They never had it. So to them, they don't know what you're talking about because to them, they never seen it. They don't know what it is. So you might as well be speaking gibberish to them because they have no point of reference, no clue, nothing to talk about.
When you say the word 8-track, they just go DVD. Or they make fun of people owning DVDs. It's like, dude, that's not fair. I got like 100 of them right here off camera. Very proud of this one. Anyway.
Sin City.
Marv. You start out loving Captain America and Superman, but then you realize that Batman, Wolverine, Iron Man, and Marv are more close to reality. What? He's evil? Just fucking kill him. He's got feelings. Yeah, that too.
Well, you see that with cars and with Hot Wheels. That's why nobody builds models anymore.
No.
Nobody. I hate to say this. Is I see this in car culture. I see this okay, in the industry, in the car industry. And Rob, you may know this. When I worked for AutoZone, they had investors and talk groups. As a store manager, I was involved in these. And they have two sections. The do-it-for-me's or the do-it-yourselfers.
Yeah, he's nodding. He knows about this. Do-it-yourselfers.
And the do-it-for-me's pay other people to do it. They don't want nothing to know about it. They're not willing to learn about it. They throw money at the problem, wish it away. The do-it-for-me's, the do-it-yourselfers, are the people that invest time and will.
How does this go on? Why isn't this working? Oh, I need a shim? Damn it.
And what happens is this generation and this generation, the do-it-yourselfers, the do-it-yourselfers are disappearing. The do-it-for-me's are taking their place because nobody does it for themselves anymore. Because even me and my brothers were talking about, a lot of people can't cook for themselves. They don't know how to cook. A lot of people can't fix their own car. They don't even know where the fluids go and what fluids are what for what vehicle as it is. So for them to build a model is beyond their scope because they're not mechanical. They can't use their hands. Unless they're typing something, they lost the capability of using their hands of the thought. So sometimes if they can't get it off the tip of their phone or order it online, they get lost when they have to do it, get off their butts and do it themselves. So the do it for me you see it in the car industries. A person with money will take a car, have it restored, then say, yeah, I restored this vehicle like they had any part in doing it. They were just a finance man. They never turned a wrench on it. They never pulled the engine out. They never welded on the quarter panel.
No.
They had nothing to do with the restoration of the car. They sent it to a guy that knows all about it, a quality restorer, paid him the big bucks, and he's the one that put all the labor and put it all there and made it what it is. The person only financed it. So the do for me's have no skin in the game except for money. They haven't learned anything, they haven't processed anything, and all they're doing is acquiring product. So you see that in all industries. The comic book industries, they never read the books.
Yeah.
They just buy them and stockpile them or
And
sell them for profit.
well, I mean, if you're a do it for me and you do your scenario that you were talking about, that's fine, but tell the truth. I paid to have this thing restored. Whereas the three of us, I was lying down in the dirt and the oil and the muck and the grime and, you know, I stripped bolts. Yeah, there you go.
So my shirt says, "I am the warranty."
Okay, Squidget. So maybe you're old and you have pancreas problems and you're
And that's going back to what you were saying, Bill,
Oh,
is
sorry.
that where you see the disconnect to them is that they never had the hands on the product. They don't know what it is.
No.
To them, I guarantee you, in years to come, later people will not know what a digital camera is. They would assume it's a GoPro, a video camera. 35 millimeter film, people don't know what it is now. People don't know what Kodachrome is. People don't know how to develop film.
We got to take a minute to sing the song. I want to know.
They don't know what a 110 cartridge is.
I said 8-track in the office and they just looked at me. Reel to reel. Dan laughed. 33, 78, 45. I don't know what you're talking about. The difference is the malt shop to the cell phone. And Dee Snider in Twisted Sister is in the middle. I've waited for so long to hear my favorite song, so let's go. I want to rock. Kids are at a disconnect from being not allowed to listen to music until a certain time because they have complete access to their cell phones nowadays. Cat must have pets. Just over here, okay?
I'm finding that a lot of the younger ones are coming to these things later in life. My oldest was very much interested in automotives and mechanics and engineering. He had a stroke in the womb. He had a lot of difficulties as he was growing up, but he was very much a visual and auditory learner. So he could conceptualize. Once I showed him something, let me show you. This is a transmission. It works by doing the following things. These gears mesh,
These gears do
these
this.
shafts are together, and he could then conceptualize that. So that became his adaptation to deal with his limitation. His brother had very little interest in that, but his brother was very much a statistician. He could understand some of those statistical ideas and things like that. So he took off on the games. He loved sports. He was a good sportsman. He could play football, basketball, baseball, but he was not a first team player. He didn't do any of that, but he had the head for the statistics. He had the head for the tactics. So he became very good at playing the games online, but he also became very good at working with the other kids and putting things together and doing that.
Yeah.
But he had no interest in the mechanics, in building things and doing any of that. Well, he's now in his early 30s. Now, well, within the last 5 years, he's been coming to me and saying, "Hey, Pop, can you show me how?"
Yeah.
Sure, let me show you how to do it. Many of his friends who are of that same generation, that same age group, would come with him because they would find out, oh, your old man's going to show you how to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, my old man never showed me any of that. I don't know that he knew how to do that. So these guys show up at my house and I start to show them and help them to learn. I'm seeing that with my grandchildren because my sons don't necessarily have some of that knowledge, and I tried to pass it along, but they didn't have the great opportunities that I had. They didn't get to sit with my dad to learn so many of these things. They didn't have grandpa to be able to spend as much time with to do those things. So now my grandchildren are coming to me. My granddaughter came to me the other day to ask me questions about things. She's, God help us, she became a teenager,
Ah,
officially a teenager. And so she will ask me about different things, but they're coming to these things, they're coming to look at these things later in life. And it has to do with the changing in certain mentalities. They recognize that a lot of things are done for them in a technological sense outside of where they can physically lay hands upon it. But then they see, well, I would love to be able to do this or understand that or be a part of this. And now they're finding that, oh, things that we learned, I learned how to make beaded jewelry as a child, 4, 5, 6 years old. We were learning to do these things. My second granddaughter, who is about a year and a half behind her now teenage sister, started taking an interest in learning how to make jewelry and to do things like that. So I bought her first jewelry kit. She's 11, she's 12 years old. So it's like, here you go. This is how you do the physical manipulation. And so she's starting to take in those things. They're starting to enjoy that level. My grandson, Bill, you got to see some of that. My oldest grandson wanted to learn how to work at the forge. I was beating on metal at 8, 9 years old. My grandson shows up over here, 12 years old. He wants to learn. Here's a hammer. Come here. I'm going to show you how to do these things. And he was, how do I do this, Papa? Show me.
yeah.
Yep. Let me show you now. Let me put it in your hand, and now you're going to do it. So we're seeing it come back around, but these folks are coming to it much later than when we came to it.
True.
So it's going to be a curiosity. I think we may see fewer, but we're going to see, the 3D printing has taken off, but it's a lot of the older kids, the teenagers, and now the young adults that have taken into it because now they can make those things. And it takes into play the technology that they're more comfortable with and confident with, and the physical manipulation that we all grew up with learning how to do things. And they're pulling it together to make that happen. So it's kind of a curiosity to see this development at a later stage in life than where we saw it.
Well, I mean, even if you remember going over there when we were still playing D&D, Paul had, dude, he had like 3 or 4 3D printers going. He was taking orders from all over the world. He was
Oh,
shipping
yeah.
stuff to people. He would he would find close to it on thingiverse.com. Not a supporter, but anyway. And then he would, but again, you and he, well, I don't know. Do you have an understanding of CAD?
I took a bunch of CAD classes when I was in college
Yeah,
because it was a part of engineering.
part of
Yeah.
engineering, where you and Paul were taking understood CAD. He was trying to force 3D printing on me, and it's like, dude, I'm not that level in mechanical drawing and engineering. I'm like a novice. You don't get it. And then he even forced a 3D printer on me, and I'm like, I don't know how to use this thing. Here's a bunch of wire. You can do it. Just set it all up. It's like, I ended, yeah, it didn't happen.
Bill, you are the original CAD.
Ah!
And
No,
that
I'm
is,
not,
and I'm not
yeah.
saying that as a CAD, I'm saying you were the original user of CAD, cardboard aided design. Guy knows all about that because that was how we used to make things before. CAD was wonderful. When I was in college, I had to have a $10,000 desktop PC with another $3,000 worth of software to be able to do the CAD things. And it was all wireframe. It didn't look anything like you see today. It was green borders, red lines, and little orange, yellow, and things like that. And there was a lot involved. And it still didn't get to what I needed because it had to go then to be printed out and then be put in the hands of a machinist to make the part. Where otherwise, if I was making something, so I was making something with Grandpa, we had to make something to work in the at the ranch or in the shop. It was a matter of bring me that angle iron and bring me some of that cardboard. Okay, I need to do this. I'm going to draw this out, and boom. And as soon as CAD became a thing, Grandpa would talk about, well, yeah, this is CAD, cardboard aided design. This is what we're doing. Using cardboard, we're making it. It is. So,
the
you know,
the e- the easiest way to explain CAD and how I look at it and how I view at it is if your machine. Rob knows this. If you have a lathe and you're used to cutting brake drums or whatever, or just cutting metal, and you measure and you measure and you do your cuts, you set your depths. You take that and you what a printer is, what a paper printer is. You just take an ink and dropping it onto the page into a certain location in a designation like a grid pattern.
Yeah.
All that is, it's taken pretty much like a CNC machine. You're putting that information that you would when you were cutting something, a pipe, aluminum there, and put it into a computer to replicate it on a piece of paper, but it's droplets of plastic. All it is droplets of plastic. And when you put it over and over again, they solidify over time as they cool. It's just hot plastic. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
So
it is.
once you program it to do it a square, you do a tesseract, then you can understand how it looks in 3D and the supports. So it's really not that difficult if you work the lathe, if you work the CNC machine, because the principles there are same. We did it in cardboard because what it helped us is it helped us visualize the corners we couldn't see on the screen. And also, we didn't want to waste the metal by cutting it wrong. So we would do it in cardboard, tape it up in the middle. We would do one section, cut it, tape it in the middle, fold it up, and see if it'll work. And we would apply to it. Then we would see if anything we were overlooking before we cut the metal. I mean, to tell you the truth, cosplayers do it now with foam mat. They make a cardboard cutout, then they cut out the format of the foam mat, then they glue it together to make their costumes. That's CAD design. That's 3D. All you're doing is putting that form onto a computer and having the 3D printer replicate it. It's the same basic idea that you're doing there.
It's still homemade stuff, and whether it's made in a forge or it's made on a 3D printer, as long as it works. For example, and I wish I had gotten some video of it when I was out there, the tool that you made for Pete, the tool that you made for Pete to take apart the hydraulic cylinders that move the forks on the forklifts.
yeah. Mhm.
It it rides on the forklift all the time, but currently it's being used to jump the starter because I'm. He installed a new panel on it, and at first, for weeks, it was working fine, but now there's an electrical problem, so he uses your tool to get it to start.
Adapt, improvise, and overcome.
That's how we do it. Pete was Air Force, but close enough. So I thought you'd like to hear that. That yes, it's being used every day to get the forklift running.
There
Well,
we go.
Oops.
Adapt, overcome, and all that, like what you said, Rob. If you look at it, it's a base fundamental. What makes difference between people who know the rules and people know how to use the rules. Like when I was in chess and I was in the chess club, everybody knew about moving the positions, everything on the board. You could only move them certain ways. People know on them. But however, if you knew what they were going to move and what they're going to do, then you can mess with them all you want. You didn't have to move it in any way that they wanted to. You could be chaotic and throw their game off. So, like going back to your son, he could see that and visualize it in his head that certain moves were done certain ways. But if I did it this way at this application at this time, I could change the game entirely. People who have that foresight can be 1 or 2, 3 steps ahead of the game because they already go, okay, this board only has these so many moves that you can make, and you can only do them at so many different times. But if I put them out of order, now I get a whole new avenue. That's where the creativity comes in, because they take the rules and take it to their advantage and use it for their advantage to accomplish something that you would never thought of. That's what they always call as working outside the box. You know, so like to your son, that's why he was able with statistics. Looking at statistically, he's like, it reminds me of the movie Moneyball.
Yeah.
They look at the statistics. They look, okay, he's going to hit for this average. He hits this way. I know my player. He's not going to always hit a home run, but he's 100%. He's going to do that. Let's play into that. Instead of, I'm going to get the best hitter, and he hits 75% of the time, but this guy over here is not the best hitter, but he does this 100% of the time. The 100% is always going to win statistically over the 75%. Even though the 75% may do it more flashier and it may make more noise and stuff, that 100% is 100%. That's the one to go with. And with Moneyball, like with your son, he saw that and goes, okay, this is how we're going to work it with statistic-wise. I got to applaud that because that's kind of ingenious.
Yeah. Gentlemen, I have to call it for the night. I'm going to turn into a pumpkin.
You're about to turn into a potato. Damn it! We're almost at 3 hours. Well, thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe. January is car month. Thank you very much from all three of us. Have a wonderful night. And yeah, I'm getting pretty tired too. Have a have a good one. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you very much.
Gretchen's already ready to go to bed.
Yeah, I just